Don't do your money out. Way up, it's a good thing I'm parking up my driveway. It's like steel chain. Like a ball or driveway. I don't know. It's not like the word. I'm looking for your house.
I'd like to call the voting meeting to order, please. Roll call. Here.
Mr. Parson?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Mortray?
Here.
Mr. Mortracy?
Here.
Mr. Mondale? Mr. Manzella?
Here.
Mr. Seinstein? Mr. O'Malley?
Here. We stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance, please. Apologize for the late start this evening. For those of you who were not here on Monday, we were in executive session from 6 p.m. to approximately 8:05 on some personnel issues. This evening we were in executive session from 6 o'clock to approximately 7:35. We had some personnel issues, contractual issues, and safety and security. With that, do I have a motion for the minutes of the previous meeting? So moved. Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Do I have a motion for the treasurer's report? So moved. Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I have a motion for the payment of general and federal fund bills. Motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Motion for the payment of the cafeteria fund bills. Motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. This evening we have no items for public comment. Moving to athletics and recreation, please.
Approval to advertise for winter sports supplies and equipment. I so move.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Rental supplementals. Request approval of the following 2021 rental supplemental contracts contingent upon receipt of the signed contract no later than 1 month after assurance, including the posting if the contingency is not met. I as proposed. I see.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Supplemental positions. Request approval of the following supplemental contracts for 2021 school year, contingent upon receipt of a signed contract no later than 1 month after issuance, including the posting of the position if the contingency is not met, pending solicitor review. Senior high, we have football scout for Joe Lamanna. Middle school boys assistant soccer coach Paige Visosky. I assume.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resignations. Request approval of the following resignations. John Benjamin, assistant varsity football coach, effective immediately. Jess Swink, head varsity wrestling coach, effective immediately. I so move.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
I would also like to announce that the athletic department, if you look on their website now, he did put up a new thing. All sports, band included, will have 2 tickets to every game, every sport event. Volleyball inside, you'll get 2 tickets. Band does not go away to band. So we can't help you out there, but we did our best. I would also like you guys to know that this board did not know anything about how they had it planned before. We did not find out till Monday. We fought for you guys, and they had to go by PDE, and we have to do what the rules say. But I do want you guys to know that this board does not always know what's going on. So when you get on social media and when you put this board down, it's not us. Maybe if you check with the administration and find out if they told the board what is going on. So congratulations to all of you. You all get to go to see your kids. I think it's a wonderful thing. I was for it 100%. Enjoy. That's all I have, Mr. O'Malley. Mr. Martray, Mr. Lake,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Evans.
Thank you. Moving to Buildings and Grounds, please.
Request approval of additional COVID PPE supplies, 1 UV light sanitizer for calculators at CTC, $179.97. UV sanitizer ones for West Crawford Office and Library, $117.98. Plexiglass dividers for life skills and emotional support student tables, $879.78. And wooden picnic tables for the middle school outside courtyard, $2,575, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Question,
Well, sorry, question?
can we have our CTC kids build these tables for us?
We checked on that, and it was actually, these were less expensive than if we purchased the lumber and everything.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, request approval of a lease agreement between Somerset Trust Company and the Collinsville Area School District for a banking student internship center for educational purposes only, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 1 abstention.
Next, request approval to purchase a John Deere X758 4x4 60-inch deck, 54-inch snow blade with hydraulic angle and weather cap for Middletown Tractor at a final cost of $8,778.42. We do have a trade-in. That's what brought the price down, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, request approval of the following additions to the custodian substitute list for 2021 school year: Bob Thomas and Don Hyatt, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, request approval of the following utilization request: The John Woodruff Committee will be using Falcon Stadium for a 5K run and walk on Saturday, October 24th, 2020 from 8 to noon. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Mortray, do you have anything else? Mrs. Sangston? Mr. Kirsch? That's all we have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving to Carnegie Free Library, please, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. O'Madic. I have nothing. Mr. Martucci?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Manzelli? That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to Causeway Area Career and Technical Center, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. O'Madic. Request approval for the Occupational Advisory Committee list for the 2020-2021 school year, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval for received items from Mrs. Regina Hughes, Sturge Construction, to be used by the carpentry program. These items include various tools, nails, and lumber, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Martucci, you have anything to add?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mongel?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. James? That's all we have, Mr. O'Madic. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to curriculum, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. O'Madic. Request approval of an agreement and to accept the grant of Project Lead the Way Computer Science Classes, CAHS, targeting cybersecurity in the amount of $20,000 over the course of two school years, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval to accept the grant from the Department of Environmental Protection in the amount of $2,991 to support the Aquapure project underwater exploration in local waterways. This grant will cover the cost of underwater robotics components and additional materials needed to perform water treatment. Can I so move?
Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval for the administration to submit a flexible instruction day application to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of a resolution for the flexible instructional days, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval to renew an agreement with Tower Metrics for the 2020-2021 school year at an approximate cost of $20,160, and it was not budgeted, and I so move.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Montiel, anything further?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Sangston?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Quinn? That's all we have in curriculum, Mr. O'Madic.
Thank you. Staying with you, Ms. Sarver, please.
Thank you. Request approval of a memorandum of understanding between the Collinsville Area School District and the Collinsville Area Education Association for Cyber Services, July 2020 through August 2021, as proposed, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Question.
Question.
I thought we were talking about maybe making some changes to the cyber program. Are we going to have to back and change our MOU, or what are we going to do with that?
Mr. Hirschman, you're a member of the committee, and this is the
Which
first
I have never been to a meeting because I've never been invited.
All right, Mr. Bradley can answer that question since he was involved in those meetings.
Question, please, Ms. Hubbard.
What I understand was looking at making some changes to our cyber program. Are we going to have to go back and get another MOU, or are we going to ask for changes to the MOU? And we know that doesn't work as a change on both sides.
So for the 2021 school year, we had amicable conversations with CAEA, and when we sat at the table and we discussed, a bunch of different scenarios, including the assignment of class, and that I think was a very good sign of moving forward. And then much to the board's chagrin and the board's foresight, they assigned Dr. Stern to be the administrator of our cyber program. And I think that those two efforts, both the assigning in collaboration with CAEA and assigning Dr. Stern as the administrator, I do not anticipate any full-scale changes to cyber FOLA for this year. Next year, we would like to try to incorporate even more during the day, and I believe that CAEA is supportive of that as well. We'd like to get as many of our students during the day, to have our educators in their day, that incorporated into their teaching schedule, where FOLA would be a period of the appropriate certificated person. But I don't anticipate any full-scale changes to cyber education in FOLA this year. I hope that answered.
Okay, I have one other additional item. I asked the cyber,
Mr. Ronaldo, hold on.
oh, that's right.
We're not done.
Thank you.
You okay, Mr. Horstman?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Pianzella.
Yes.
Mrs. Tyson.
Yes.
Mr. Ronaldo.
Abstain.
Mr. Parson.
No.
Mr. Lake.
Yes.
Mr. Mortrey.
Yes.
Mr. Martucci.
Yes.
Mr. Wendell.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Okay, my final item is informational for the board and the public. We have up to today's numbers on our full enrollment. A total of 323 students are enrolled. And in kindergarten, across our 4 elementaries, there are 15, first grade 23, second grade 20, third grade 20, fourth grade 13, fifth grade 21. In the middle school, sixth grade 20, seventh grade 33, eighth grade 34. In the high school, that includes the CTC, ninth grade 42, 10th grade 39, 11th grade 29, and 12th grade 41. We also have 131 students in the brick and mortar who are taking a FOLA class, which we would probably label a blended format. And we also have under credit recovery 159. So I think the program is working very well. Our students are taking advantage of it, and our administrators and our teachers are really stepping up to service our students, and I want to thank them and give the board that information. Mr. Harshman, do you have anything else?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Mongeau?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Ghost?
I have nothing, thank you.
Dr. Stern? That's all we have.
Thank you. Moving to federal programs, please, Mr. Martucci.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmedi. Request approval for the intermediate Unit 1 to provide Title I services for non-public schools for the 2020-2021 school year, and that's moved.
Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of the Title I non-designated school-wide plan for Dunmore Township Elementary in accordance with federal Title I program guidelines, and that's moved.
Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of the Title I non-designated school-wide plan for full-scale elementary in accordance with federal Title I program guidelines, and that's moved.
Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of the Title I non-designated school-wide plan for Springfield, Clifford, and Prince Elementary in accordance with federal Title I program guidelines, and I so move.
Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of the Title I non-designated school-wide plan for West Crawford Elementary in accordance with federal Title I program guidelines, and I so move.
Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Request approval of the following professional employees travel. Tracy Coons, Director of Federal Programs, will be virtually attending the 2020 Pennsylvania Association Federal Program PAFEC Annual Conference, Wednesday and Thursday, October 14, 15, 2020, at a cost of $125 as budgeted. And I so move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And
Stop, one abstention.
and that's all I have. Mrs. Sexton. Getting that. Mr. Moultrie? Anything to add? Dr. Coons? That's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to finance, please.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Item A, KOZ. I was asked if we could put this off until, if we could table this until next month's meeting. And without objection, I'd like that done.
I believe it was tabled at the August meeting. Solicitor, will you give some guidance here? Do we need to table it then?
Yeah, if you want to retain it as a,
Okay. So Mr. Mongeal's motion is to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We have one more. Item B, request the approval to accept the 21st Century Grant through Private Industry Council for before and after school programs for the 2020-21 school year without, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Brunel, do you have any?
Madam President,
And Mr. Pantelli, do you have any? That's all we have, Mr. O'Malley, thanks.
Thank you. Moving to food service, please.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. We have no agenda items. Mr. Panzello, anything to add? Mr. Horstman?
nothing, thank you.
And Mrs. Basinger? That's all, Mr. O'Malley. Thank you.
Thank you. Personnel review and liaison, Mr. Ponte.
Thank you. Item A, request the approval of the memorandum of understanding agreement between the Council Area School District and the Council Area Education Association regarding COVID instruction for the 2020-21 school year as proposed, and I so move.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item B, request the approval of the resolution to adopt the Act 13 of 2020 mandate waiver request form regarding Type 01 emergency permits for Kristen Banasic for the 2020-2021 school year. Without, and I so move.
Motion is second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item C, request the approval of the renewal agreement with Scenario Learning LLC for the Safe Schools Training Course Library for October 2nd, 2020 through October 1st, 2021 at a total cost to be charged evenly between Human Resources and the Athletics cost of $4,626 as budgeted, and I so move.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item D, request the approval for Megan Knoll, teacher, to take a child care leave of absence for the first semester of the 2021 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item E, request the approval to hire Kimberly Yarborough as a long-term special education substitute teacher at Springfield Clifford Fritz Elementary for the first semester of the 2021 school year, and I so move.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item F, request the approval to hire Angela Capuzzi for a long-term art substitute teacher at the middle school for the 2021 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item G, request approval for Robert Shaner to take a sabbatical leave of absence for the 2021 school year, and I so move.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item H, request the approval to hire Ezekiel Zelich as a long-term science substitute teacher at the high school effective September the 8th, 2020 for the remainder of the 2021 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item I, request the approval to accept the resignation of Laureen Barnes, substitute or support professional, effective August 21st, 2020, and I so move.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item J, request the approval to accept the retirement of Susan Reagan, secretary, effective September 30th, 2020, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item K, request the approval for Kimberly Noskis, cafeteria worker, to take a leave of absence for up to 90 days, effective August 11th, 2020, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item L, request the approval. Request the approval to hire Caitlin Lubitch as a long-term special education substitute teacher at Springfield Clifford Fritz Elementary for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year, with the start date to be determined. And I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item M, request the approval of the following addition to the support professional substitute list for the 2020-21 school year with the name Michael Mary, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item N, request the approval of the following additions to the professional substitute list for the 2021 school year. Courtney Wiltrout for emergency, and Brooke Shumore for school speech and language pathologist, PK for 12, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item O, request the approval for Amanda Swazinski, teacher, to take a leave of absence for up to 6 weeks, effective September 21st, 2020, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item P, request the approval to accept the retirement of Barbara Swink, a teacher, effective December 2nd, 2020, and I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item Q, request approval to hire Laura Landy as a long-term third grade substitute teacher at Bullskin Township Elementary, effective December 3rd, 2020, for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Item R, request approval to appoint Jamie Quinn as acting principal at West Crawford Elementary at the regular salary with an additional $50 a day stipend effective August 20th, 2020. And I so move.
Motion and second, all in favor? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Langston?
No.
Mr. Otto?
No.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Mortray? Mr. Marcucci?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
No.
Mr. Piazala?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Malley?
No.
Motion carried.
Mr. President, the reason I voted no on this because this process is still
Didn't know
what we originally set it up for. That's the reason I voted. It's not because of the person or any process that we had set up. I'd like to hear from you.
I believe we all discussed that.
Yeah, is that right?
Item-
Everybody was in agreement.
I believe during our discussion, I tried to insert for the first 9 weeks of 2021. That would be my only hesitation to vote yes, because that language wasn't part of it.
Why don't we talk about this before we go on here? Doesn't make any sense.
Wasn't in executive session item.
Well, we did, one thing that could have been brought up. I mean, we knew it was on there. Somebody called me the phone call, got an issue with it. I mean, all of a sudden, you know.
Mr. Witt, because of the sensitivity in executive session rules, should we break for executive session if this is talking about an individual?
Well, speaking of executive session and stuff, I think what I'd like to do now is make another motion. And I'll finish these first. Is that fine, Mr. Solicitor? Are we okay to move on to S?
Yes, go ahead.
Item S, request the approval for Karen Basin.
No, I don't think Mr. Martin. You make the motion at this point.
Request the approval for Karen Basin of cafeteria to take a leave of absence for up to 90 days effective October the 5th, 2020. And I so move.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number T, request the approval to accept the resignation of Elizabeth Pernelli, a teacher, with the final day of employment to be November 20th, 2020, for Act 14 of Pennsylvania Code, or unless released prior to the November 20th, 2020, pending appropriate replacements and transition with replacements as approved by the superintendent. And I so move.
Question, this is new from Monday night.
Yes.
We need a second, Mr. Marshall. We have a motion. Anybody have a second?
Second.
As Mr. Horstman stated, this is an addition to the agenda. Anybody from the public or the board have any questions?
I have a question now. We're looking at a possible date of November 20th. And I know we talked about it earlier, but it's going to be up to the superintendent to make that decision. And in fact, he could definitely hold her to November 20th.
Yes, I think that's what the motion says. He can hold it to November 20th.
We put some kind of security in there so that if we find somebody and get them trained, that this board is okay with letting her go sooner than November 20th.
Mr. Horstman, the way the motion reads there, the last sentence, it says pending appropriate replacement and transition with replacement as approved by the superintendent. Does that satisfy your concern? Or is there something additional you want to?
No, I would just be concerned that the possibility that the superintendent could hold her until November 20th. According to anything.
Why can't we put on there, approved by the superintendent and the school board? And then that way, if the school board wishes to let her go earlier, they have every right to.
So that would take place at the October
Right.
meeting. So. Mr. Mongel, would you like to, can we do that solicitor? We have a second. Please make-
Point of order, my only concern with that is that the appropriate replacement is found, she would be able to be released prior to the next board meeting in October. You're talking it's 5 weeks versus perhaps 3. And she may, we may, Dr. Coons and I may be able to facilitate this in 3 weeks, and we would be at 5 weeks if we wait till the October board meeting.
Okay, we could say that it's
That's what it says.
up to 4 weeks, up to the next board meeting. If you can get it done in 3 weeks and she's out of here in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then we're all good. And I don't want to drag it out, just to drag it out. You know, we're going to lose more and more people as this year goes on.
The concern is losing more and more people. The rationale behind Act 14 is that your children aren't left without a teacher. So the teacher cannot come in and say, I'm moving more, I resign. This allows the district and the children in that district to be protected.
I'm not worried about just the teacher itself. I'm not worried about other employees that we have in the district. But I know we're going to lose a few more this year.
I think Mr. Hartman's concern is, this board has had a tendency with Superintendent Mueller. I know it wasn't superintendent, this board has had a tendency to hold people for 60 days. Cost us money there was no need for it. They could have left after 2 weeks. So that's the big thing. If we get a replacement and the kids are not jeopardized in any way, I feel that you ought to let her go and the honor Mary way.
Correct.
So I'm fine with that.
So you're fine with the way it's written, Mr. Lake? Or-
No, I'm fine with letting her go if we're going to let her go for 60 days, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
But the way it reads here, we can hold her up to 60 days and it'll be up to the superintendent to decide. And I have no problem with him deciding as long as we have a replacement to let her go, he can let her go in 2 weeks, according to this, right?
Yes.
This is set up, he can hold her for until November 20th.
Well, he can, but it says unless, release prior to November 20th. Right? So you can release her anytime.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm all right there, because if something happens that we feel that you need released, and she's not released by the superintendent, we can always ask Mr. O'Mac to go call a special meeting when we then release her. That's all.
All right, we'll leave the motion as written, and if there's any issues, we can certainly address it in 4 weeks at the October board meeting. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ronaldo?
Yes.
Mr. Parson?
No.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongel?
Yes.
Mr. Piazella?
Yes.
Mrs. Saxton?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
And with that being said, this would typically be the last motion, but I want to read a motion over again, actually changing some verbiage. I request that the superintendent and the board conduct interviews for the position of West Crawford Elementary Principal. And either for, and it could be for either, any teacher that feels that they want to be interviewed for a principal position or an assistant principal position or whatever. Please come, get interviewed. We have to know what you're like and what you're doing. And then we'll make these decisions. And the decisions will be made by the board once everybody sees what we can do. I'm tired of getting notified by people that, why won't we interview for these positions? Well, because in some cases, somebody puts names in on the agenda before we even receive it. So it'd be nice to be able to see what other people can do. There's a lot of people in the school district that would like to have a chance to get one of these positions. So basically, the motion is to interview for the position of West Crawford Elementary Principal, and while you're interviewing for that, we'll keep those applications and interviews on hand for anything else that comes up down the road. And I so move.
Mr. Margell, you're requesting that they post the position, correct?
I'm requesting to have interviews for having this position. Oh, yes.
You have to
Post it. We have an opening.
Okay.
So let's have interviews for anybody interested in that position, particularly district-wide. I'd rather keep it in-house so people around here have a chance.
So your motion then is request to post an interview for the position, correct?
Yes, and that includes Mrs. Quinn. I had nothing, I didn't vote against her. I voted against the way things are done.
Okay. All right, it's a new motion. Yes. As the board secretary said, we need a second. Is there a second for that, please?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, a new addition. Anybody have any further questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Tori Clark. Tori Clark.
Yes.
I'm from Town Clerk, West Crawford Elementary.
Yes.
My concern is having a lack of leadership at our school. Mrs. Valencia has come in and done an amazing job. Our shoes are very hard to fill. And Mrs. Valencia has done a wonderful job doing so. And she has worked in our building before, prior to this. And I just want to make a statement that the board needs to think of the consistency for our staff and for our students. Because if we keep messing with the principals, the staff doesn't connect with them and the students don't connect with them. I still have students crying because Dr. Coons left. I had it today while I was speaking to a parent. And I think the Dr. Coons' interpretation isn't absolutely wonderful interpretation. But you have to think about what you are doing to us adults that are working there, that are trying to hold it together for these kids. If you keep making us change principles every 9 weeks, you are going to drive us crazy.
Thank you.
I agree. I think that it's time that we possibly put some stability in these schools. And I think that we need to start by having somebody at West Crawford full-time and do what we have to do.
She was on
How much-
acting, I mean, we don't even have an act, we didn't even keep her as acting. So you're telling me then tomorrow we have no principal? That's what you voted for. You guys voted for no principal tomorrow in West Crawford.
In my interpretation of this, she's still going to be there tomorrow or whatever until she's replaced.
You said you're interviewing and you have no principal tomorrow.
We have to start interviews.
No.
Can't leave the
Then
place.
my recommendation would be a second motion appointing her during the interview period. During the interview period, appoint her as the acting principal would be my recommendation.
Well, we left it alone. You could interview then.
Correct.
And not
Correct.
out
But-
here.
First of all,
Did say that before, back in the back, when we first put her in there. Yes, we did, because I was one of them that said to do an interview.
I think before we even, we need to discuss if we're going to even think about hiring for that position. I mean, we didn't really sit down, nobody really said, hey, we want to hire us for that right now. I mean, we knew this was happening, this motion on this paper right here, we knew this was happening. How could you know? Wasn't it just on there? I mean, this is nothing new to us. You just, the first you saw us today? You didn't see it Monday? That's what I'm saying. We knew this Monday. I mean, we knew that she was going to do it. We knew she was going to that
Doesn't
place.
have anything to do with it, that's all.
I have a question. I got a phone call, I got videos of Mrs. Valencia Quinn as the standing principal of my children's school. So you're saying Mr. Martell, she's not. She's just trying to fill it in right now, so you guys want to hire her maybe? In all of this mess, what you're going to do to her? They're already in there in this mess, they have a board meeting, and she's not even at, I don't think, saying she's not the acting principal.
Yeah, that's bad.
Well, that wasn't how it was,
The
man.
question is she the acting principal?
That's exactly what the
She is.
administration
She
told
is
us.
now
Yes.
until stayed this
Board.
way.
You voted no. You voted no for her to be the acting principal.
Excuse me, everybody, solicitor would like to speak for that, please.
No, I didn't vote against her being acting principal. The motion is for her to be the principal.
It voted down, Bob. You voted no.
So to clarify the position, or the status of this position, as a result of the prior motion not having gone through, for having it failed, that position as the principal or who would be in charge of that building is an administrative appointment at this point until the board takes further action at a subsequent meeting. So at this point, given the failure of that motion and the prior actions that were taken, it becomes an administrative appointment in the interim.
Yes, it was determined several weeks ago or a month ago that the superintendent can make temporary personnel appointments. And that's what took place with Ms. Quinn. So he made that determination, like I said, weeks ago when school started. She will be there tomorrow, the next day, and so forth, until there's, as Mr. Mongell just made a motion, until a permanent principal is selected for the position. Sure.
Tomorrow, she can fly.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. and it may take,
She knows her school.
it may take 6 months or 9 months to get a principal, and that could very well happen. And
Yeah, I agree. I think that this board should show support for her and for the students and for the faculty at West Crawford to keep her in there for this year. With everything that's going on, there should be some stability.
Why wasn't this process started when that position became vacant? And I think I asked a question about leaving middle school without a guidance counselor. Why did they start that? They could have put her in there in the intern. But when that position became open, why wasn't that position and the process started right then and there? When Dr. Coons was put into her new position and that position became vacant.
Ask Mr. Bradley.
I thought it pretty much happened at about the same time, didn't it?
My question is, when Dr. Coons was moved into her new position,
Yes.
congratulations to her, because that's well deserved.
Yes.
But that position became open, that principal position became open. Immediately, that should have been posted and advertised, and an interview should have been started to fill that position.
Well, I believe when Dr. Coons moved, shortly after that, Mr. Bradley made that temporary assignment.
Temporary is the
Right,
term,
yeah.
right. So why, at that point, a permanent position they should have started to seek a permanent position at that time?
Same way that Dr. Jacob left. Took how long to get replacement in?
I mean, it's not an easy.
Dragging your feet. That's
No,
all
there
it
is
is.
not.
May I say something, Mr. Reddick?
Sure.
I agree with Mrs. Winsick, who said, you know, those students are suffering over at West Crawford Elementary, but at the same token, we also have kids up at the middle school that have lost a guidance counselor. I only ask for a fair process, because there's probably 25 or 30 valid candidates within our district that should have a chance to sit at the table and interview for that position. Should Jamie Bilecki be the candidate at the end of that process, she should get that job. But also, other people have worked. Isn't this what we try to teach kids? Work hard. Try to go through school and improve yourself, and maybe you'll get a seat at the table. Those other candidates also deserve a seat at the table for an interview, if nothing else, even if it's just for show. And then at the end of that process, whoever the best candidate is, and that's what we want, right? We just don't want to fill in. We want to find, because we always hear, what's best for kiddos, or what's best for our students. What's best for our students is to find the best person. And if it's her at the end, hire her. If not, hire the best person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Until you could have just left her there and got the process going. This was no way to do it. This was ridiculous.
We knew this, how long ago, Joe, we talked about this. We knew this was happening, we decided as a board that that's the direction we were going, was with Jamie. And that was decided, we knew that, and all of a sudden they wanted us to bring up not hiring somebody. This was decided, no, we knew as a board that she was more in that position. So now all of a sudden, nobody said anything about hiring someone. So now we're going to sit here and say we're going to hire somebody? I mean, it's ridiculous.
My recommendation is to have a motion that kind of memorializes what we're saying. It memorializes during the hiring process, as Mr. Vanzella pointed out, for the stability of our students, for the stability of our staff, for the continuity, that there's a motion adjacent to the Mr. Mongell motion to start the hiring process, that while we are going through that process with fidelity, that we will have a stable individual there that is qualified and competent and has already shown that qualification and competency through the appointment, and that would memorialize that. So I'm asking and recommending that a board member would make a motion similar to letter T that was, letter R that was presented during, and just add on during the hiring process.
Well, Mr. Bradley, I believe it was decided that you could make those appointments, correct, Solicitor? Yeah.
Can you say that microphone, please?
In the interim, because it wasn't specifically filled by board action. In the interim, because this wasn't specifically filled by board action, it would defer to an administrative appointment, even in the interim while the interview process is taking place. So, regardless of whether Mrs. Quinn would want to remain in that position, and administration would be okay with that, that's fine. If she would not want to take a position and it would be vacant, then administration could assign somebody to that position in the interim, because it's deferred to just administrative action, absent specific board approval otherwise.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Witt, thank you for that information and that clarification. Does that include, for the extra hours that that individual works, does that include the stipend for the extra hours?
That would, any additional comments, that would not include any additional compensation, which would require board action in addition to, the appointment itself.
Being aware of the administration role.
Oh, yes. All right, we have,
Hopefully, I apologize for the technology difficulties, and hopefully we can address those, and I apologize to our community for those and for our gooseneck mics not being up to what we believe our standard should be. I apologize. I would, in recognition of the hours that administrators put in, similar to all professionals, I understand that teachers put in hours as well. Historically at Connellsville, based on the last motion of enacting principle, that individual approximately 4 years ago did receive a stipend for the additional time. I'm asking that a board, as a friendly amendment to the Mr. Mongell amendment, kind of memorialize that stipend as well.
we have a motion and a second on Mr. Mongell's motion to basically advertise for the position. You said we had a second? We had a motion and a second on Mr. Mongell's motion. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call.
Parson?
No.
Blake?
No.
Martin? Martucci?
No.
Mongell?
Yes.
Pianella?
No.
Mrs. Saxton?
Yes.
Mrs. Ronaldo?
Yes.
And Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Romati, I have, when we're ready, I have a motion that I would like to add to help address the concerns that Mr. Bradley just mentioned.
Couldn't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay, if you got it, you say you have a motion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Request approval to place the stipend of an additional $50 per day effective August 2nd, 2020 to Jamie Bilecki Quinn in West Crawford Elementary School at her regular salary, in addition to her regular salary.
That's a motion, we just voted on.
What is the difference, and now we belittled someone in public. What is the difference of 30 seconds ago of approving that request and moving on with your interviews? Unbelievable. I would tell you guys, I'll be back at the middle school and we'll see who will belittle next. Wow. Same motion, we belittle somebody and 30 seconds later we're going to do the same thing. We could have just passed this motion. It didn't say she stayed for a year. It didn't say she stayed for a day, a week, whatever. and then when you got your interviews done and you picked a candidate, she could have went back and that candidate could have been in there. Unbelievable.
Mr. O'Malley, with the objection of Mr. Pansell, I revert back to and I withdraw my motion of $50 additional a day as a stipend.
Okay, we
the
get
same motion, or you change the motion and read the same motion?
Change the dates.
Yeah, the date's different.
Wasn't the other motion to give her?
The date, I think he changed the date.
That's what I thought he changed the date. He said
They complained about the second, which,
I think that's what he did.
Didn't you change the date? You just told me you didn't change the date. The date changed or not?
the date he said was August 2nd, is what I heard.
August 20th, 2020. These microphones go in and out.
Vote it down.
But it doesn't make any difference, Mr. Lake, because I withdrew it because of objections from the board. The original motion that was discussed, okay?
All right, I think what,
The reason that I voted no, and I mentioned it, is because it didn't indicate the first 9 weeks. All right? That's gone. At this point, we're going to start to hire, and it's up to an administrative decision of our superintendent to fill it.
Within the 9-week period.
Until such time as we have a suitable replacement, whoever that may be.
So you
We're gonna
had,
go through
you
the
didn't have to have
interview
9 weeks
process.
gone, you could have left it the way it was, we could have had she could have been gone tomorrow. There was no reason to add 9 weeks. We did this before to other people that were acting principals. If they're there a week, they were there a month, whatever. It doesn't say she has to stay for any period of time. As soon as you found that person, they switched. It's terrible, terrible.
What did Mrs. Lucky Quinn think she was, what time frame did she think she was going in there for? Because that discussion should have taken place.
9 weeks when we talked to her.
Then that 9 weeks, this would have been simple if they would have just had 9 weeks in that motion.
Who
I
talked
agree,
to
and I
her?
tried to
My
do
question
that.
would be, who talked to her? Because not everybody talks to her, not the board. So who talked to her, Mr. Rinaldo?
Mr. Panzella, Mr. Bradley went out, made a phone call, asked me to come out. I listened to the phone call. We went in and reported the phone call to the board.
You didn't come in and say 9 weeks. You come in and said that you were going to talk to her about taking the position for temporary.
Mr. Bradley, if you want to interject in here, that's fine. If you do not, that's fine as well.
9 weeks. 9 weeks was discussed, and the board motion would have codified that 9 weeks if that was the desire of the board or during the hiring process. You know,
That really wasn't the discussion, so if you really want to know the discussion was whether she could even do the job because of the office she held with our union, and that was one of the biggest holdups. We couldn't make a decision whether we could even put her in there. Was that not part of the discussion? Correct, yeah. Thank you.
I think that was taken care of right off the bat.
No, it wasn't.
From our discussion, it was.
Well, you have it knocked out.
Well, I'm telling you from our side, and Mr. Quinn can speak to that. That was a discussion that took place immediately.
we discussed the changing of names on certain documents, and it would be a hardship if she had to resign from something and not be able to change names. It didn't make logistical sense for someone to be in there a short period of time, or a moderate period of time, changing names on documents as an office
She
holder.
was aware of the time frame. So the board was not.
9 weeks? Yeah, we thought she was going in for 9 weeks, but we left before that. When we left there that night, we didn't know she was going in. We made the decision, that was on a Monday, we made the decision on Wednesday. That's what we discussed. You're absolutely right. But the other discussion just come in executive session on Monday, because we did this other candidate, other people that did this same job, we give them a $50 stipend because they're working for hours, and they are. So we give them, and that's why the motion was passed. Now, Dawn, Mr. Granado wanted to put on, give her $50, but he just wanted to change it, and I think conclusion on it. Which, it's fine, like Dave said, it don't matter. You can take her out before that if you want to. It's not that she was going to stay, it's nothing in laws that she has to do.
Day to day, day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no sense running this through the mud. She's day to day. Find your best candidate next week and change her back. This is ridiculous. What we do to people, I don't understand why people leave.
I think one of the
That's why they do leave.
conversations too is, if it's gonna be long-term, somebody needs to fill in at the middle school. You can't leave that position vacant either, and you wouldn't do that to a teaching position. If somebody's hired for a long-term teaching position, then you have to fill that vacancy. Or if somebody leaves and it's a 90-day period, you have to fill that vacancy. Our concern as a membership is, we don't want those students at the middle school to not have their services because Mrs. Quinn is filling it someplace else. But again, that's a great scenario. She deserves that opportunity to show you what she has, or give a viable pool of candidates in a district, and she is one of them. She deserves that opportunity. But those kids in the middle school do not deserve to not have a guidance counselor out there. If it's long-term, then somebody should be in there filling in that guidance position.
Well, I agree 100%. To the point that we're back in school 5 days a week, which I'm totally in favor of. But until we're there full time and all kids are going 5 days, they really don't have as much as they had. How many people do you have even going
But I'm
to school?
telling you, right now, our kids need.
How many guidance counselors do you have?
I'm in elementary, I have one. I think there's
No,
one
I'm
other.
talking about the
I think
middle.
there's
How
one,
many's there?
is there one other one up there?
It's two.
Two.
Two other ones up there?
Two. Two total.
High school. Four, pardon me?
School council,
Four.
the middle school, there are two.
That's what I said, two.
Two total.
And two total, right now.
One.
They grade by himself because Mrs. Lucky Quinn is filling in that in critical. Mr. K grade is one counselor to 1,100 students.
Well, 102 now.
1,100.
11.
1,100, but there are 1,100 students up there. No, but I'm saying,
I
right
know,
now.
but we're going 1,100.
We need them more now than ever these kids. But. And they're still entitled, they're also still entitled to services whether or not they are in the building or not.
You're not getting services, what you're doing?
Maybe not with my guidance counselor. One school counselor cannot service 1,100 students effectively as a professional school counselor. That, the American School Counselor Association recommends 1 to 2 kids for school counselors. And I know because I know like Crawford and I know over 500. And I can tell you I put in 16 hours a week trying to do my job as a professional school counselor.
So if we have a person that, like, this is Valencia Quinn, that we wanted to try and put in that position for 9 weeks, because we did not, and the union gave us agreement, we should have replaced the guidance counselor immediately, or not taken Mrs. Valencia Quinn out of that situation because it was too hard for that situation.
There should have been a law for us to be put in.
Well, I mean, there's one or the other. No, if we didn't want to detriment the kids there, we shouldn't have never moved Mrs. Valencia. We messed up and moved her there, because now you don't have a guidance counselor. So there's
Well,
one or the other.
you took one position and put it in another, you took away a position.
That's what I'm saying. Either we needed to have another guidance counselor put in that position, or not move it.
That's incorrect. You needed to have another counselor put in that position on a substitute basis.
They need a female as a middle school.
And when we hired somebody for that position, we would put a sub in, but what happens if we hire somebody, they hired somebody for the principal position next week or 2 weeks from now, and now she has no place to go.
That doesn't mean that they are not being paid.
Then what?
They pay substitution.
That should be fine.
If it's going to bring a professional school counselor into that building, a female professional school counselor for those students that are suffering through social emotional trauma, and also academic concerns, and the career planning that is part of the state mandate, there should have been a basic sum put in Mrs. Valencia's position so that Mr. St. Brady was not
that should have been handled, I mean, the board doesn't get involved in placing subs. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why there wasn't a sub put in there if she's over there full-time. We don't pick the subs. You know, we don't say, put a sub in her place or don't put a sub in her place. That's up to administration. So I just don't understand why they didn't put a sub in there from day one. You know?
The board, you tell administrators, you say, so let's think that you said, make sure that Mrs. Valencia's position at the middle school is still in the daily.
Well, yeah, and likewise, we never say, make sure that there's an English teacher here at the high school when someone's off. I mean, that should be a given. Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I agree with you.
The thing is, there's no state mandate for the number of students to counselor ratio. There is a recommendation by the American School Counselor Association of 250 to 1, but there is no mandate. So, the administration can say, one school counselor to 11 numbers, that's what we cover.
Okay.
But we are saying, you are doing a great service to that middle school kids, that's what they need to promote. There should be 3 more counselors at that middle school.
But you have to understand that the board doesn't have anything to do with that. The administration has to do that. We can't, our hands are full. Everybody thinks this board does everything. To be honest with you, our administration called us community volunteers. Now, what do you think they think of this board? They think we're community volunteers. You think that we're supposed to do everything, which we would love to do everything. But when our own administration calls us community volunteers, that should tell you what they think of this board.
Well, Mr. Bradley, will you please look into that guidance counselor position? School counselor, I'm sorry.
Enough discussion took place about prior to tonight, about placing Mrs. Quinn in that position.
Yes.
Did it not, and I'm not being rude, but didn't it click to anybody that we're moving her, so there's a vacated position? Didn't anybody think, what's going to happen to that empty position?
There was a lot of discussion to that, which we can't even talk about that position.
Because I remember I stood up here and said, when Mrs. Coons again was being moved, I said, so you're going to leave West Crawford without a principal, and it was said, up there's a plan. Didn't know what the plan was at the time, but obviously there was some discussion. But my question is, if we're moving somebody, then something else is being vacated. Which we would think if it was a 9-week period that was discussed, somebody would be replacing them for an extended period.
I think that discussion was discussed amongst the people involved in the union vote. They agree.
Well, I mean, it had to go through the board before it came to the union.
No, not that night.
Never came to
Never
us.
went through the board. You guys, but you said it was already decided that night. We never knew nothing about that night. So you said it was already decided.
I mean, we were fine. We
Well, but I was glad you just spoke to me a little bit ago. You was fine with it. We knew nothing about it. There's only 2 people to talk to her. They come in and give us a little insight of what went on. That was it.
Can I speak from the union side real quick? I'll say the union was not aware of that, whatever went down that evening. I got a text from Jamie Bilecki, as I was sitting, because I even said to Julie, I just got a text from Jamie right after Dr. Coons was hired, and again, definitely deserving of that hire. I got a text that said, from Jamie saying, I just got a call from Mr. Bradley. So I'm not the smartest guy in this room, but I kind of put 2 and 2 together. My permission is not, the union's permission was not needed for that. So that was between the board, the superintendent, and Mrs. Bilecki Quinn. We were all, we would support her whatever her move was. Thank you.
I think that the biggest thing here is possibly Mr. Bradley try and find somebody soon as possible, a sub to fill in at the middle school. Until such time, Jamie Valencia Quinn either takes the job as principal or she goes back to that job. I think that that's only fair for the students.
I was under the impression that someone was already there. It was like someone stated here, you take them out of there long-term, you expect someone to go in there long-term. I didn't know there wasn't anybody in that counselor job until tonight. So again, I asked Mr. Bradley and Dr. Coons, see if you can find some way to solve the issue there. We've got some certified people that can move into that position.
We were back, Mr. O'Malley. I'm sorry, on discussion we had when this all came about, is that we were going to go with 9-week rotation of that position. And when Mrs. Galecki's name came up, we put her in that position for the first 9 weeks. I didn't want to go that direction, and I think some of them will remember, because you're taking a guidance counselor that children have been with since 6th grade. If we're going to do this 9-week rotation, let's wait until a later time to move Mrs. Galecki. She does a good job up here in the guidance counseling department. Wait till later on, put someone else there, and then do the rotation from there. And if we wanted to put her the 3rd week or the fourth 9 weeks, whatever, that would have been fine. And that's when this process, that's why I let it know, because the process was all changed for some reason. And I wanted to clarify that.
Yes, Mr. Martre, you did say that. All right, we're back. Sorry. Back to Mr. Rinaldo's motion. I guess some of the confusion on my part, and the solicitor may have just cleared it up. Again, several weeks ago, I spoke to Mr. Bradley and said, the board needs to vote on this position. It was determined by the solicitor that Mr. Bradley can move people temporarily, assign people to positions in the district. The board didn't need to vote. So here we are tonight, now we're voting. I don't understand why we're voting if Mr. Bradley can move those people temporarily. The solicitor just cleared it up. It's now because we're going to pay her an additional salary. So, Mr. Rinaldo, it's on my part, my opinion, my confusion. Now Mr. Rinaldo's basically, did we change the date, or is it still August the 20th?
We want to put 9 weeks.
Are you adding 9 weeks to that? Mr. Rinaldo,
Well, yes,
you added 9 weeks to that.
so there's a guarantee there. I would go through the process. I would certainly hope that Mrs. Quinn would apply.
Okay. So we have that? Okay. Mr. Rinaldo's motion needs a second. We have a motion and a second.
You read it, see where we're at.
Yes. Mr. Rinaldo, will you get on the mic?
So I have words all over the place here. Our board secretary has something down and would like to read it. If I don't know if that's what it was, I can then have to prepare. If not, then I guess I can try to come up with something. And I have words all over the place here. Do you have something?
We just use the original one. It doesn't say she's staying any longer than, all that did, the solicitor said, is we're offering her a $50 stipend. There's no difference. You can take her out tomorrow.
All right, let's do it this way then. Let's try this the way we believe it was going to go. Request approval to appoint Jamie Galecki Quinn as acting principal at West Crawford Elementary School for the first 9 weeks of 2020-2021 at her regular salary with an addition $50 a day stipend effective January 20th, 2020.
August.
August 20th, thank you. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Question,
Oh, sorry, question.
what are you gonna do if you find someone before the 9 weeks? Just a question.
Friendly motion, friendly amendment to the motion?
Yeah, my opinion would be, if you find someone before 9 weeks, don't have that person start until after her 9 weeks is up.
And additionally, if it's an internal candidate, that would give us the opportunity to appropriately find a replacement for that candidate as well.
And then she goes back to the job tomorrow, and the next person gets $50.
Yeah, and they would, I guess they would look for another person. And again, Mr. Bradley can make that call without the board approval.
So, I mean, the next person, we gave her name, so the next person's not guaranteed $50 when she gets the job. We'll be back here.
Well,
Prorated, dropped over.
I would think that if this person's going to, again, on solicitor comment, because we're paying additional money, needs to go to action. So I would assume that if someone else was to take it, they would also assume that they would get the $50.
Could I recommend that the board rephrase the motion to say that the request approval to authorize a stipend in the amount of $50 per day effective August 20th, 2020 for the administrative interim appointment for acting principal at West Crawford Elementary School at his or her regular salary, or in addition to his or her regular salary. That would confirm that it's an administrative appointment, and whoever would be in that position would be subject to or receive the $50 per day stipend.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
You accept that, Mr. Dole? Yes, question?
What happens if she comes in tomorrow and I don't want the job?
We have a
Well,
superintendent.
then your next administrative assistant, whoever Mr. Bradley has the pleasure of appointing.
Because
Get $50.
if it remains an administrative appointment because there's no board action specifically appointing somebody in particular, so it would be subject to an administrative appointment to fill that vacancy at that point, once again on an interim basis.
Mr. Bernard, are you good with that?
Right, I accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion. Wordsmithing, that is.
Mr. Martre, you second that. Is that okay with you? The new correction that the solicitor suggested? You okay with it? Okay, so the new motion with solicitor's input. All in favor? Opposed? Roll call.
Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes.
The reason I voted no on that is I do not like putting somebody in there for a 9-week period. They're just getting their feet wet, and it's time to take them out. Somebody else comes in there, and they're going to change everything around, so now we have another 9 weeks to put up with somebody different. So that's my reasoning for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harshman. Anything else, Mr. Mongeau, under that was it. Okay, moving to policy and legislative, Mr. Parson.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Request approval of the first reading of the following revised policies. Policy number PDB, live stream video. Policy number 255, educational stability for children in foster care. Policy number 103, discrimination, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting students. Policy number 104, discrimination, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting staff. Policy 247, hazing. Policy number 249, bullying and cyberbullying. Policy 317.1, educational misconduct, educator misconduct. Policy number 824, maintaining professional adult-student boundaries. Policy number 111, lesson plans.
Hold.
Mr. Monte, or Mr. Ronaldo, we're going to have to wait till we get it.
Thank you.
Read it through, please.
Policy number 203, communicable disease and immunizations. Policy number 209, health examinations and screenings. Policy number 314, physical examinations. Policy number 334, sick leave. Policy number 705, facilities and workplace safety. Policy 803, school calendar. Policy number 904, public attendance at school events. Policy number 907, school visitors. 103, discrimination line, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting students. Okay, that's all. PDE.
Yeah, I think.
And I so move.
All right, before we ask for a second, Solicitor, can I ask clarification? We want to, looks like we have at least one board member who wants to have a full, how's that?
So there's one particular policy that is the Quinn, and part of the motion, that particular board member will make a motion for that item, take a second, afterwards, second all of that motion.
Okay. If you heard the solicitor, we need to vote this one as it is. And Mr. Ronaldo, if you would like to hold one, then you'll have to have a separate motion to hold that policy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call, please.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Are we ready to continue?
Yes, you can continue.
Item B, additional policies, first reading. Request approval of the following additional policy. Policy number 832, educational equality, equity. Policy number 340, responsibility for student welfare. And I so move.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Item C, committee meeting held. All this committee meeting was held August 26, 2020. That's all I have.
Mr. Nate? Mr. Granada?
No, I'm one of the holders, and I'd like to discuss it.
Mr. Bradley?
Would you?
He's getting a microphone, 1 second.
Thank you. The reason I wanted to hold lesson plan policy 111 is I wanted to ask the question, the changes that are in this policy, have they been vetted through the union, the CAEA? And the reason I asked that question at our committee meeting, and I haven't gotten a response yet, is that the collective bargaining agreement, I believe, spells out how a lesson plan is to be presented, recorded, and distributed. And this changes it, and I wanted to know whether or not, so that we don't end up with agreements on a contractual item, if that was accomplished, if someone can answer that.
Mr. Bradley, yes, we know about that?
As the first reading, it's not policy yet, as we're aware, as the first reading, and we wanted to see where the discrepancies were and see what we could do as far as our collective bargaining agreement and the policy that was recommended. These are just recommended from PSBA's first reads, which we subscribe to.
So to Mr. Granada's concern, do you know if that was properly vetted? On the lesson plans?
The comparison and contrast between the CBA and this policy, no. It's the first reading.
I'll make a motion to policy 111 is pulled off at the first reading, and we have to read it again next month, once everybody has a chance to review it.
Correct.
I agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lake. Mr. Lake is making a motion to hold policy 111. Yes, sir.
If you look through these policies, a few of these are in our contract. Sick leave, you see lesson plans, sick leave, school calendar, facilities and workplace safety. So I think a couple of those need to be looked at as far as our contract.
Mr. O'Manick, I was ready to hold policy 705, facility and workplace safety, and policy 803, school calendar as well.
Geez, well, we have to vote on Mr. Lake's first. Do I have a second on Mr. Lake's?
Second.
I have a motion and second on Mr. Lake's motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead, Mr. Bernard.
Under policy 705, facilities and workplace safety, there's language that has been removed, or suggested to be removed, and at our policy meeting, I indicated that I wanted to see if this information, these clarifications could be made, and I'm asking, have they been done? For example, top of page 2 of this policy, it says the superintendent or designee shall periodically review and evaluate district health and safety rules and the health and safety plans as necessary. What was struck from this existing policy is prepare rules governing school safety and prevention and accidents and fire, in which all are included requirements of the law applicable to the regulations of various departments and state. That was fine to strike that. What I was asking to be added to this, and I'll read the entire sentence. Superintendent or designee shall periodically review and evaluate district health and safety rules and health and safety plans as necessary and inform the school board of directors. That was not included.
So are you going to make a motion to hold a couple of these policies?
That's correct. I'd like to make a motion that we hold policy 705 and do the same thing that we're doing with policy 111, and also to policy 803 school calendar, and I can address that as well.
About 334.
Sick leave.
Right, well, that one I didn't do, and if you wish to do this,
Mr. Matic, would it be easier just to leave these the way they are for the first reading? We send it back to the committee, and the committee can work with the union contract, which would include Mrs. Kokenauer, to go over this also.
Solicitor, if we allow them to go as first read, can we make changes to them?
Still have to read it 3 times.
You make subsequent changes. Maybe it just needs to be reintroduced with those changes there.
And would that would be a first read again?
If it's a substantive change to the policy itself.
Mr. Gall, are you okay with that?
yes, may I at least explain my caution on 803, school calendar? So that when these committees or this group meets, they'll know what the issue that I had, and maybe other board members may have after they hear this. Okay, on page 2, under delegation of responsibility, it says, superintendent shall prepare annually a school calendar for board consideration no later than March. I suggested at our meeting that it should read, superintendent shall prepare an annual school calendar for board consideration and approval.
Okay. Can you handle that with the next review?
Yeah, and I hate to bring, even talk about why I send all these votes. And I did brought this up at one meeting before that. We pay somebody to give us these policies. We pay somebody to make policies that they're not even aware of what we do. I said we ought to be making our own policies. And if I had to stack my policies up from 1991, they would be higher than my head stopped on the floor. And we don't even know what half of these policies are, and I bet you some of these policies are overwrote policies that we adopted before. That's why I'm not in favor of paying somebody that really doesn't know what's going on in the Collinsville School District. That's why I wouldn't know any kind of policy is ever on here from now on. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, so we're not going to make another, Mr. Lake has made a motion to pull policy 111, that will stand. We have approved the list, and as Mr. Harshman suggested, and the solicitor said we can do it, we can make changes to these policies and bring them back at the next board meeting. So I believe we are done with those policies. Okay, Mr. Harshman, anything else?
That's all we have, thank you.
Thank you. Moving to safety and security, Mr. Martray.
Thank you, Mr. Matic. I have nothing this evening. Mrs. Sankey, do you have anything?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Martucci? Mr. Farley? That's all we have under safety and security.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Yes.
I would like to mention that, recent newspaper on Saturday.
Can't hear you, Mr. Rinaldo.
In the newspaper on Saturday, September 18th, there was a pull-out article on thanking the blue. Salute to our local police, and I wanted to point out that our Mr. Parlak was featured in it with a really nice photo of him standing by his vehicle with the school buses behind it. And more than the photo and what it did is to say that we do positive things here at Connersville. His interview, I thought, was very well done. I agreed with everything he said in it, and I wanted to publicly commend him for the work that he does every day to protect the students and staff and employees in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, anything to add?
I'm humbled. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Moving to special education, Mr. Montre.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Under Highlands, request approval of an additional student for the previously board-approved agreement on July 22nd, 2020. And I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Under Intermediate Unit 1, request approval of the educational service agreement between Intermediate Unit 1 and Collinsville Area School District for educational resources for the 2020-21 school year. And I so move.
Motion second, do I have a question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
And our special education meeting was held on September 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. And Mr. Lake, do you have anything additional?
No,
Mr. Martucci? And Mr. D'Amico? Mr. Maddock, I'd like to just thank the employees who are retiring listed tonight for all their years of service here in Collinsville and wish them the very best in retirement. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to student services, please.
Student accident insurance, request approval of the K-12 volunteer student accident insurance through United States Fire Insurance Company for the 2021 school year. I so move.
Second. Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Southwood Psychiatric Hospital, request approval of the agreement between Collinsville School District and Southwood Psychiatric Hospital for 2021 school year at a cost of $90 per day. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
You stepped out.
no,
Yes.
Chestnut Ridge, request approval of the memorandum of agreement between Chestnut Ridge Counseling Service and the Collinsville Area School District for school-based behavioral health for the 2021 school year at no cost to the district. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Volunteers, request approval of the following marching band volunteers for the 2021 school year: Sarah Thompson and Andrew Dookie. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
This was in addition for Monday positions. Request approval of the following school district positions at a charge of $7.85 for each student physical examination and $11.20 for each bus driver physical examination for the 2020-21 school year. Dr. Gina Canada, Dr. Rachel Esposito, Dr. William Kozak, Dr. Mary Beth Crafty. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
This also was addition for Monday. Dentists request approval of the following dental examiners at the charge of 85 cents for each dental examination for the 2021 school year. Dr. Dale Codwater, Joseph Chomiak, Dr. Frank Jakonecki, Dr. Jerry Perez, and Dr. Grimaldi. I so move.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion. Any opposed? Motion carried.
This also was an addition for travel. Carrie Galter, teacher, Gary Giffen, Kristen Schroyle, Terry Ricker, Larissa Bujaholtz, Christy Myers, are aides, and approximately 8 senior high life skills students will be visiting Dudas Farm October 8, 2020 at a cost of transportation. Emily Wright, teacher, Karen Hollis, Tamika Cornish, Sam Home, aides, and approximately 14 middle school life skills students will be visiting Martin's Grocery Store October 1st, October 29th, November 19th, December 17th, 2020. January 14th, February 18th, March 18th, April 15th, May 13th, June 3rd, 2021, at a cost of transportation. So I so moved.
Motion is second. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
We also had a committee meeting on September 15th at 6 o'clock. So I have Mr. Manning, Mr. Mongeau,
Nothing, thank
Mr. Lake,
you. Nothing, thank you.
Mr. D'Amico. That's all, thank you.
Thank you. Moving to technology, Mr. Panzella.
Request approval to purchase a Hypercaster broadcast solution from Teleview Corporation for the high school TV studio at an approximate cost of $11,581. And this is an addition for tonight. And I so move.
Motion is second. Any questions on the addition?
Mr. Ghost, I'm just going to ask you, since it's an addition, we have this in the budget to purchase.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Parson, do you have anything else?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Grinaldo?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Ghost? That's all we have, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, transportation, please.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malley. Request approval of the following additions, bus band drivers list for the 2020-2021 school year. Colburn, Ronald Miller, Kelly Minor, Ron Nicholson, Anna Marie Rosenberry. Connetzco, Michael Allison, Debbie Cohen, Ruth Eanes, Dean Miller, and James Nudo. Nelson, Cheryl Kremer, Larry Meaner, and Kathy Reagan. And no questions or objections like those placed on the agenda.
That's a motion you're making. Do I have a second, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Panzella second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Panzella, have anything to add?
Nothing yet.
Mr. Archie?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Evans? Thank you.
Thank you. Under President's report, there's only one candidate for every one of these. And we have received the vice president. There's two candidates, so we have to select one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it into two motions. I'll read the only candidates first, and I'll go back and pick up the vice president, and we'll see who has my votes. Request approval to direct the board secretary to electronically cast votes for the following PSBA offices. President-elect David Hine, only candidate. Treasurer Michael Gossard, only candidate. Western at Large Marcia Pletta, only candidate. Section 2 advisor Amy Kimmick, only candidate. Section 4 advisor Brenda Petula, only candidate. Section 6 advisor Andrea Kristoff, only candidate. Trustee Michael Fienzo and Mary Ann Neal, only candidates for two positions. Forum steering committees, Stephen Skoraki, Tracy Long, only candidates for two positions. And I so vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Back to Vice President. I make a motion for Vice President Sabrina from Franklin area, Sabrina Backer from Franklin area, Venango County, the Vice President. And I so move. Okay. Motion is second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And that's all I have under President's report. And sorry this took so long. We are now on non-agenda items. We have several speakers. Selena and Chris Orr. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong.
We are requesting our son to come 4 days a week. We do not have internet at our house. It started on the first week in August. I called to talk to the superintendent. He never got back to me about this. I did get a call back from Mr. Bosnick. Talked to Mr. Bosnick. He said that it had to be brought up at the school board meeting. I asked him if someone could do that for us, and he said yes, that the superintendent would do that for us. Unfortunately, nobody has brought it up, from my understanding. I asked Mr. Bosnick, what are we supposed to do without internet? It's not the fact that we can't afford internet, we don't have internet in our area. I was wondering if you guys can approve him to go 4 days a week. My husband is the supervisor in our area. He can tell you that we don't have internet. We're hoping that eventually we have that, but we don't. And we would like to.
Mr. Bradley, could you address that, please?
The board was presented with a plan that they passed. I effectuate that plan. The plan did not account for that.
Was the board ever asked about that? Because
Wait a minute, wait. Has the board ever asked about it? Absolutely. I don't know what the heck we're living in here.
No, ask about her specific, I think she's
Yeah,
asking about her
I
specific.
called and asked specifically if the board, if it could be brought up to the board.
But it was discussed. I don't want you to think it wasn't discussed,
Well,
because it was discussed. No, it was not discussed, Dave?
No, not her.
Wait, no, in the very beginning. This started in the beginning of August when we decided that we were going to come back 2 days a week. I called the school and I talked to actually his secretary. And I asked her, I said, is there a chance that the kids that do not have internet connection, if they could possibly go 4 days a week? And she said, I asked her, how many kids don't actually have internet? And she said, from her understanding, there was 100 kids in the whole school district, Connellsville School District, that had no internet connection.
100 kids?
In the whole district. And I said to her, I said, is there a possibility that this could be brought up? And she's like, I'm sure of it. And I said, well, who do we need to talk to? And she said, Mr. Bradley. So then Mr. Bradley, I was waiting for a call back. I got a call back from Mr. Bosnick. And at that time, I have notes and I have dates. At that time, Mr. Bosnick did call me back. He was very nice to me, said to me, you know, he understood exactly what was going on, that he would have to talk to Mr. Bradley about that. And I said, at that time, whose decision is it? And he said, well, it would have to be brought up at a school board meeting. And I said, can that happen? And he said, absolutely. So he got a hold of Mr. Bradley, and Mr. Bradley was supposed to bring that up at the school board meeting. This was back in August. So I waited for after the school board meeting. I did not attend because I didn't think that I needed to attend, that I thought that it would be a vote. At that time, I called back to Mr. Bosnick. After I knew that there was a school board meeting, I called him, I called Mr. Bosnick and I said, was there a vote? What happened with that? And he said, oh, let me get back to you. Can I call you back that evening? So he then called Mr. Bradley, asked Mr. Bradley, was there a vote? And he said, well, the school board didn't approve that. That's not what they talked about. And I said, well, okay, so what do we have to do? And he said, I don't know what you have to do. And I said, what is Mr. Bradley's suggestions on the kids that do not have internet connection? What does he want us to do? And he then once again got back in touch with him, and he really didn't have an answer. He couldn't tell us what we were supposed to do. He said, you're just gonna have to talk to the school board. At this time, this was before school started. And I wanted an answer, what am I supposed to do when school starts? So at that time, he's like, I don't know. I said, well, whose decision is it? Who do we have to ask? And he said, the school board. The school board has to vote. At that time, I did know Dave Panzella. I contacted Dave Panzella, and I asked him, I said, what can we do to get the school board, what we can do to get it approved that CJ can go 4 days a week, or the kids that don't have internet connection? And he said, well, let me make a few phone calls, let me talk to the school, how many kids there is, and what we can do for you. So at that time, that was before school even started. And I called again, and I don't know really what happened. I mean, he really couldn't give me an answer. He said that he needed to talk to a few people, get the numbers, how many kids had school, how many kids, were coming at that time, how many were not coming, the computers were down. That's why I'm here, because I guess it's the school board's vote.
Well, it's been heard, because, you know, and Mr. Vanzella hasn't been, he didn't lie to you, he didn't tell you, he's been working on it, believe me. He's
I believe he has, because
Yeah,
he.
she knows that.
I do know
And
that.
our technology committee talked about it.
Right.
Mr. Ghost, we're all, I mean, Mr.
talked about it
Grinaldo,
so
we knew that nothing
Right.
worked.
Right, that's exactly, I mean, I knew he was, I just need the vote.
Correct. The provisions in the plan that the board passed were for IEP students and CTC students, and that morphed from original proposals, and I will gladly implement anything that they pass. And my goal is to get kids back here 5 days a week.
We had absolutely no idea or any forethought of somebody not having absolutely no internet.
Your plan.
You brought up the jetpacks.
Your plan
Mr.
addresses
Ronaldo
that.
brought it up, and Mr. Ghost, nothing would work there.
So the plan addresses that, Mr. Panzella, that you passed. The plan addresses students without internet, that the district has provided hotspots. And
That hotspot doesn't work for us. I don't know who in their right mind thinks a working parent that you can go after school.
Correct.
And go to some hotspot. I work
That's
until
what-
almost 6 o'clock every evening. Am I supposed to take my son to the nearest hotspot at 6 o'clock in the evening to do his work? And from my understanding, and Mr. Bosnick stood here and told us that every child was supposed to log on and be like you're in the classroom with your, like in school. Is that not happening? Because I really don't know, because we don't have internet. But apparently you're supposed to be able to log on and see your teacher and ask questions and be like you're in class.
Guys, I want you to understand, I sit on that same side of the table as you guys do once a month. And I appreciate all the headaches you guys are going through. We're here just asking for help. We don't have internet access. And I've been working on it for 3 years, and we're getting close, but unfortunately we don't have it. And the kids struggle. I mean, it needs to be in school. And if it's a possibility that we could go 4 days a week.
And I know Dave Panzella has made the phone calls. I have talked to him myself, probably, I'm gonna say 5 times. I do have dates every single time I talk to him. I'm like, what can we do? And he's, I know, he's called Mr. Bosnick, talked to Mr. Bosnick several times. Mr. Bosnick, when we were here touring the school and Mr. Bosnick was talking to us, he took me back afterwards, when I stayed for probably a half hour, 45 minutes, so he could call Mr. Bradley and find out, okay, where are we at with this? What do we need to do?
Well, I hate to hear that the board has a plan, because the board had a plan the last meeting when we left here. And when we left here, we told the band parents, you wouldn't be allowed to come to the games. We wouldn't allow to have cheerleaders. We wouldn't allow, but that board changed. I mean, the plan changed that we had. Somehow the plan changed. And I feel for you guys, and I feel when Dave called me, I feel that there's some way we should be able to work something out. And that's, I think, that all we want is somebody to look into it and see why not. The plan isn't cut in stone, because it wasn't cut in stone with giving tickets to the football players the board knew nothing about. The plan wasn't cut in stone for anything that happened in that situation. But, you know, there ought to be a way we can do something. And you're not the only people, because you're not speaking for yourself. There's several people in the same position.
Well, that's what I have heard. I've asked, what are the numbers? In the spring, I was told there was 24 kids in the high school that did not have internet. I know the number can't be huge, because we are at 2020. But there is a few kids. I think that should be granted with all you can still social distance and have, if there is 24 kids, you should be allowed or give us that opportunity to send our kid 4 days a week with only 24 kids.
Bradley, I think that you should be able to make an exception to that. You know,
Okay.
We're looking at
Sounds good.
possibly 100 kids spread out through the whole high school, middle school, elementary. You know, like she said, maybe there aren't 24 kids, but I think that we should be able to make arrangements for those kids to come 4 days a week. If they want to.
Yes, absolutely,
And it
if
was
they want
only-
to, absolutely.
And we did go, Mr. Ghost did get the numbers, and I believe we were at 100, that's or like, you're right, if we mix it through the school and, listen, as you're putting the plan together, it's like, you're not sure, there could be a hiccup here and there, and they were one prime example. I mean, sometimes you have to do a case-by-case thing, and we have to adjust. That's what we were trying to push lately.
I'm taking that as the consensus of the board, and we'll move forward, and we'll allow those students to come 4 days a week. That's fine. I mean, that's...
Thank you. Thank you very much. So are we going to get a vote tonight, and our kids are going to be able to go tomorrow? Are we going to get a vote on that tonight?
Sure.
And then will he be able to go one way or
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to communicate that tonight with an all-call or anything. I won't, because at the hour, I don't want to disturb homes. I don't want to make an all-call, won't be till 11, so it would be communicated as soon as possible.
Friday, be all right? We get an all-call out?
I can get one tomorrow. I just don't want to call homes. It'll be 11 o'clock by the time I make a phone call.
Well, my son wouldn't go to school tomorrow because he falls on the Tuesday to Friday day.
Gotcha.
You know what? Even if we have to wait Monday.
That's fine, absolutely, I agree with that, but I'm just saying the Friday day, it doesn't, I just wanted to know whether or not it was you vote.
Definitely get something working on it and try.
I appreciate that, thank you very much.
Second.
What are we doing?
You're amending the PDE submitted health and safety plan to include students that do not have internet access to attend school face-to-face 4 days a week. Voluntarily, correct.
I mean, if we're gonna sign a waiver.
No, it's just, it was, the only, in the health and safety plan, it was students with IEPs and Career and Technical Center, kids for the shop portion. This is a third subgroup, it's fine, it just needs to be amended from the, PDE accepts a health and safety plan as it's submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We'll finish this public comment and then come back. Next on the list is Laurie Parson, open school 5 days a week.
I would like to know what your objective is having classes 2 days a week. Is it to lessen the spread of the virus? Is it to protect the most vulnerable? Because if that's the case, it's failing. The kids that are home 3 days a week, many of them are being taken care of by the grandparents. That's the most vulnerable. And many kids are going to an outside facility, the Mennonite Church, YMCA, other organizations. They're taking these kids in and assisting them on their schoolwork, but now you're exposing them to an entirely different group of kids. So that working with 2 days a week is not working. So I say bring the kids back 5 days a week. They need to go back to school. Kids aren't getting this virus. I mean, it's a very low percentage. As of today, there's 74.1 million children in the United States, 94 of this virus. That is 0.0000012%. That's very low. More people are dying from influenza, pneumonia. They die 3.5 times what this virus is. They're dying from pneumonia. They have a better chance of dying in a school-related bus accident than dying from this virus. Everybody takes a risk in life. We take a risk walking out the door, getting in your car. This is a very low risk, kids going back to school. You're asking a lot of our teachers also. I don't know how they do it. You're going from one class, now you're talking 3 classes they're teaching basically. And the kids are struggling. You know, my daughter's a straight A student. She's making C's now. If she's in class, the teacher can recognize somebody's struggling. If they have a problem, they can email a teacher. Well, they can't get back to them instantly. Sometimes it's the next day. This is damaging our kids. Socially, psychologically, and educationally, this is damaging. And I'm asking you, be bold. Take a vote tonight. Let's go back to school. The kids need it. Don't just make this counting 180 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Crystal Britt, open school 5 days.
So just to tag on to what he was saying, I do want to know what the objection is to opening school 5 days. I'm going to speak to the emotional distress that it is causing in our family. I have a 3rd grader who's a genius, super intelligent. When he started school at pre-K level, he had a lot of social anxiety. It was really challenging to get him familiarized and stable in school. But he has moved mountains. He loves school. He was so excited to go to school. He's in the 3rd grade, and 3rd grade, in most opinions, is a really tough year. It's a lot of transition, multiple teachers. He has cried every single day since school. His teacher has said she can just see him close in on himself. It is harming our children. Not only is it harming our children for those of us who have families who are supportive and stable, I can't begin to imagine what it's doing to the children that do not have stability in the home. And school is their safe haven, their teachers are their safe haven, their smiles are their safe haven, even though that's probably a long way away. But I just, as a mom and as a citizen of this community and a alumni of Connellsville, I just really wanted to express how important it is on so many levels that our children go to school. This is not working for parents that care, so I'm sure that it's not working for parents that don't care. And my heart is broken for the parents that don't have internet just because of accident, and it's taken this long. We're 3 weeks into school and nobody got back to her and she had to come here. I feel really bad for her. So that's tragic, but I want to know, have you guys as a board researched the statistics like this gentleman just gave, and what the stats have shown from the beginning of COVID-19, of what this is doing to schools or YMCAs or daycares that never closed ever, and what the transition to giving it to parents, grandparents, what those numbers are, and if you guys have taken that into consideration or you're just kind of following suit. So I am just believing and praying that you guys are really doing all of the research and taking all of that into consideration, because it is affecting our children dramatically and it's affecting our teachers and the staff. So I'm just here to say, let's go back to school.
Thank you. Next we have Laurie Parson, Fall Sports, Spectators.
Good evening. Earlier this evening I had some things that I wanted to say, but in lieu of the initial report that we are going to be allowed to be a spectator as a band parent going forward with the other 2 additional home games that we have. I'm very much appreciated that we are going to be able to do that. My only question is, well, I guess I have 2 questions. Will the band be staying for the games and participating in the games the entire time? And my other question is that that Monday morning, I was told that I was going to be allowed to go into that game as a senior band parent, and by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was told no. I found out then this evening that you all were unaware of that decision, and I would like to know what I can do as a parent to find out how to contact all of you to keep that from happening. Because obviously, I will never see my child go on to his first game as a senior again that day, and that was taken away from him as well as myself. And anyone up there that is a parent knows that these things, these events, are very important to us, to our children, to us as a parent, because we've worked so hard. I've been a band parent for 7 years, and I've seen a lot of things that are upsetting through the years, and the things that have been kind of taken away from the kids. And unfortunately, everybody's going through this time together, and I would just like to know what support that we can get when something such as this is brought to our attention, when it's too late to call anybody at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, if you're asking how to get in touch with board members, we all have email addresses. I'll admit I'm not very good. Sometimes it stays before I get to my emails. But we do have emails, and I mean, that's probably the easiest way to contact any of us, unless somebody else has another idea.
Yeah, for me, you can just yell.
Yeah, I know.
I believe that we do have a phone system set up.
Yeah, there's a voicemail. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Call me anytime you need.
Thank you.
you. And next we have Laurie Parson.
Good evening. I do want to thank you on behalf of the boosters for the band, for continuing to support the band program. We're really, really excited about being able to participate in these last 2 games. We also are excited about being able to use the stadium the evenings that are away games on the 2nd of October and the 16th of October. I know that we can't go back and redo this first game, but we really, really do appreciate everything, the changes that have been made, so that the remaining 2 home games will be a definite move towards normalcy for our students. And I will make sure in the future that I make every effort to be in contact with you all, to make sure you know of any issues, concerns, and also achievements that we want to share with you. So, again, just thank you.
Thank you. Next, Annie.
Hi, I'm Heather Regish. I'm the proud mother of Nicholas Regish, a high honor student and member of the Mighty Falcon Marching Band. I know things have changed from the beginning of the meeting, and I appreciate Mr. Ronaldo replying to my email that I sent earlier this week. I wanted to attend tonight in order to suggest that someone apologize to the band for the blatant disregard and disrespect that they received. Not us parents, the band. The band does not just jump on the field with instruments and run around. They have practiced and taken lessons for years to play their instruments. They spend hours and hours learning techniques and drills to represent Connellsville proudly, as seen by the many awards they've won. Many of these students continue to use these skills as they further their education after leaving Connellsville High School in music majors or being members of the college marching bands. Sunday evening, we were made aware that senior football and cheer squad parents were given 2 tickets to home games, while no consideration was given to band parents who had willingly left after the band performed to allow the football and cheer parents to take pride in their children's efforts and accomplishments. Instead, we were belittled, trying to take pictures through a fence or watch from a distance where the drills could not even be appreciated. I do not know if this is in fact true, but I heard someone suggested only allowing a limited number of band members to perform, and if this is in fact true, this would verify how little the band is appreciated and understood about the work involved. The band is a team. Would you suggest the football coach only send half the defensive line on the field? Of course not, because it wouldn't make sense. Nor does only sending a limited number of band members on the field when over 80 members have practiced the drills as a team. I completely understand we must respect the CDC guidelines for large outside gatherings, but treating all students involved equally is not only the ethical thing, but it is your responsibility as elected school board members and administrative staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I will assure you that there was much heated discussion, and I'll just leave it at that. For the band, for the indoor events, volleyball for one, what took place, the restrictions that were put on us by the state, WPIL, PIAA, whoever, we were following those restrictions. I'm not saying that they were great, they were horrible, they were awful. And to leave certain groups out was awful too. We didn't have, again, it wasn't the board that made these decisions, it was our administrative staff that made the decisions. But I got to give credit tonight to Mr. Evans. Mr. Evans has been working with he's been in many conference calls with PIAA, WPIL, and this was the plan that these schools came up with to issue everybody, every participant, whether you are an athlete playing on the field or you're a band marching on the field, or you're a cheerleader. I give him a lot of credit for that. He's been bird dogging this thing from about day one. And there were sure inequalities the whole way until we got to tonight. And at least everybody got something tonight. It's still not ideal, but like you said, the band now can have spectators there. The parents can come and watch them. Yeah, I can't really. Well, I think there were some limits that had our hands tied.
Just a point of clarification.
Go ahead.
No, I appreciate your comments and I appreciate recognizing that things change by the hour. 8:01 last night, we got our most recent update to effectuate the change that you just heard about today. And throughout this process, I applaud Mr. Yotzi for being as involved in the process as he is. It was actually his concept to come up with the away game use of the stadium with the lights and with the staff that would involve. That was kind of unique in our league and in Fayette County. The other school districts some may have modeled that, and that was Mr. Yotzi's idea. In the second part, with the band vacating the premises, was also an idea that was brought on by Mr. Yotzi, and we applaud him for his communication of that, and also his idea of that when it was first floated, that due to at the time, and as these change, at the time it was no spectators, but your band could stay if you were still under 250. That's where the allotment of rotating students in week to week, similar to whenever the football team last week had to travel, they had to limit the number of travel football players. It was a hardship for them, and those students that practiced all week, much like the band practiced all summer in the hot heat, and they practiced all week, those members couldn't go to an away football game. So the idea was floated out that certain band members could be in the stands playing during the action. The entire band would be there for their performance before the game, the national anthem, and the alma mater. Then other members could be rotated week to week to week to ensure equality and play during the action of the football game. That option, by Mr. Yotzi, he would rather leave because of the teamwork that you expressed, that as a team they wanted solidarity and they all wanted to vacate after the national anthem and the alma mater, and also after the halftime show that was shown before the game. So, I'm grateful that he was so involved in that process and creative in his use of our facility to allow more fans actually in the band. At that time, your Friday away games, you were given access to the stadium at greater numbers than 46 being divided by, it would be 3 groups would be dividing 46 tickets into senior, whether it was senior football, senior band, and senior cheerleaders. So, that's the communication process that occurred. And again, we're fortunate to have a dedicated band director such as Mr. Yotzi that was creative with that.
But, Rich, I think you need, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Go ahead.
That's why we took his advice on leaving before the game even started, and we took his advice on Saturday or Friday away games. Those were both, we took his advice on both of those. Just to clarify, apologize for, I'm sorry, I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the Friday away games, and I think our confusion as administrators were the request to leave before the game even started. So I guess we didn't comprehend that having an entire Friday at the away games was a slight compared to leaving before the game even started. So I think that's where the confusion lies, and I do apologize for that, and I apologize if any student was offended or any parent was offended. And we endeavor to give them complete access to the facility, including cleaning staff and the lights and everything. I do not view that as a practice. I know that my recent conversation with Mr. Yotzi was, it involved go full blown. Don't do a practice. Go dress to the nines. Do everything like you would at a regular game, like they are doing before the game even starts. They did this past Friday before the game even started. They did their whole entire show, but they left before the game even started. So the excitement of the game really didn't get ramped up until they were gone. I think that's it. So I do apologize.
Seeing them do their pregame and
Sure.
whether it's before or at halftime, is our show. That's our game.
Thus, Mr. Yossi's concept to have the Fridays at the away. That was a great concept.
The Fridays, I'm pretty sure they use it as a practice. I don't think they can dress up in their uniform or anything.
Like,
They're not allowed to be there.
sure they are.
If he tells us we're not allowed to, it's embarrassing.
What's that?
That's not what we was told.
Then, you know, the conversation I had with Mr. Yotzi was,
There were designated an issue for that Friday. There should be tickets that issued to keep the crowd under control from 250. There was nothing for that. They showed up to be watched by music.
what's for the Friday away games?
But with the band being able to take the field on the way.
You were allowed 250 people in the facility at that time for the away games. Yeah, that's what we communicated to Mr. Yossi. Have full blown. Don't call it practice. I mean, let's do it. Let's get after it. I don't think he's endeavored. I don't think he's had one of those yet.
We was told it was going to be like a band preview.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what he told me. Yeah. The next away game that I was aware of that Mr. Yotzi was going to do, you know, my communication was, you know, and I'll check my anecdotal notes, my communication was, let's go, let's have a full-blown, wear your uniform, they look great, they look sharp, let's get, you know, full attendance there, and don't call it practice. Thank you. For the Friday away games? There'll be 2 tickets per participant. Yeah, correct. 2 tickets per participant. Two tickets per participant. So two tickets per.
If you go over 250, yes, 300?
Yeah, it's 2 tickets per participant.
No.
They're not counting the participants in anymore, and, you know, I mean, 2 tickets per participant. Is that?
I think, Mr. Evans, you need to explain, because we said some things tonight. The next away game is not wide open. We have to leave the players there, don't we, Mr. Evans? Because it's not a WPIL sanctioned game.
Yeah, football, the 2 tickets to each both team, both cheerleader, both band, 2 tickets to each away player goes into effect the following Friday. This away game has to have a game, not a conference game, and they're allocated back.
Can't hear it.
Games here?
No, they can't hear you. You got a mic? I just, you know, because I want to make it clear that everybody don't think it's wide open for the next away game, because it's not.
The away game concept, when the team's away, they're going to be at our field. No bands are traveling any away throughout the season. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, this Friday night at West Allegheny, the football team is still under the travel restrictions of 70 total people. No away fans. The thing that goes into effect that is 2 tickets for every home team player, every away team player, every home cheerleader, and every home band member goes into effect the following Friday in our conference game at Franklin Regional. So for our home games, we will be able, and this is conference-wide, be able to have our full football team there, whole cheerleading squad, and whole band squad there for an entire home game. Cheerleaders and band is not traveling away, and again, that's across the conference, that's consistent. But that goes into effect the following Friday at Franklin Regional.
I was under the understanding to be consistent with our Spectator Guidelines, it's 2 per participant. I mean, that's what we're to be consistent with, you know, the whether it's an athletic event or, you know, the co-curricular events such as band, you know, it's 2 per participant.
I don't understand that.
If we're gonna have our home games and we're gonna have 500 or 600 or 1,000 people there, why are we telling them they can only have 240 people there? I don't understand the difference. We're gonna have our own home games and we're allowing 500 to 1,000 people. Now we're telling them if they wanna have a preview, they can't. They can't go over 240. That's where we get into problems.
Figure you average that many, Rich, at a home football game?
For a home football game, you put in every home team person, every way, home cheer, home band, 2 tickets for all those people, 2 tickets for the away team. There's somewhere between 5 and 600.
500 to 600.
I mean, I'm neutral. If you want to be 600 people, that's great. It's 2 per participant was what is a fair guideline. For Friday away games, is that what we're talking about, Friday away games? Yeah, go ahead.
So what's the answer to the question?
I mean, we posted this evening, Spectator Guidelines, and it lists 2 per participant. I'm fine with band if you want to make it 6 per participant. I'm neutral. But, I mean, that's what we posted to be consistent, so that the next deluge of calls, you know, or deluge of parents will be, why can't we have, you know, 4 at soccer or for whatever the case may be. I serve at the mercy of the board, and the board directs us to be correct. Correct.
What I'm saying is, if we open it up to the community, let the home football team, they come and say, we need to.
It's a community event, yeah.
So we don't stay with the same guideline for everybody. I think that's just that.
You know, there's also liability, and if the Department of Health would come and say, me personally, I would open it up. There has to be some sort of guidelines, and the 2 per participant was a reasonable guideline. We were at none, yeah.
Okay, further discussion on that? Next on the list is Toby McKnight.
Hi, I would just like to address the children getting back to school 5 days a week as soon as possible. I'm not sure why it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. That should be the foremost thing on every agenda for every month, that the kids aren't in school 5 days a week. I sent an email. I appreciate Mr. O'Maddock responding to it. In his response, he mentioned that it was guidelines from the state. Yet there are other school districts that are returning to school 5 days a week. Seneca Valley, AG, Albert Gallatin is getting back to school. I heard Latrobe was. These kids are struggling badly, just like some of the other parents that spoke. My third grader particularly, she's cried at least a half dozen times every single day she's been home. Every day. She's a straight A student normally. If she doesn't have myself or my wife there, she can't do anything. She's completely lost. These kids are struggling. I can't even imagine what the teachers are going through. And I certainly wouldn't want to be in your shoes. But it's imperative that you guys have a special meeting as soon as possible to discuss getting these kids back to school 5 days a week. If other school districts can do it, we certainly can. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley, we take a few minutes? You passed out some information to the board tonight.
So the Department of Health and the Department of Education, they co-author the level of community transmissions that's broadcast on their website every Monday. So what we're looking at Collinsville School District is us to move into the low rating. And what low means is there's two metrics that you look at, the percent positivity and the incidence rate per 100,000. Right now, Fayette County is well below the percent positivity, being less than 5%. The most recent week that was released came out Monday, and we were at 2.1% in the county. When you look at the second metric, and that's the incidences per 100, they want that to be less than 10 per 100. Right now, Fayette County is really darn close. They're at 21. I think that we can safely do that, and the board has given me some instructions to go ahead and take a look at this level of community transmission. And once we hit a span of low community transmission, that we would move to a 5-day-a-week model, and also give those learners that are health conscious and health fragile an opportunity to stay home at their choice and still be educated. So I think that the board as a whole would like to see the kids. We know that our teachers really excel when they have the kids in front of them, the students in front of them, and that's their strength. And we're receptive, and we acknowledge that the teachers are going above and beyond trying to communicate and educate families in the at-home model.
Thank you. I think we're getting close.
So that's part of the ongoing conversation, because if we go to a completely, those students that want to stay home, one opportunity would be for them to enroll in a FOLA program, and then the teachers, the brick and mortar teachers will be focusing just on their brick and mortar students. Yeah. Correct.
You will be able to do it online, right?
And the other opportunities, if we stay with our Google Classroom model, would be, giving teachers an adequate amount of time to put rigorous, aligned, directed lessons and being supportive of our teaching staff and having the time to do that. If we stay with the Google Classroom model for those families that chose, due to medical fragileness or whatever the reason that they chose, to be in the at-home model.
We're not going to wait a month. In other words, if it drops down to low and it stays low for a little while, Mr. Bradley will get in touch with Mr. O'Malley, call a special meeting, and we'll do something. I mean, we're not going to wait until the end of the board meeting.
It comes out morning. It's based on the previous week, but they don't release it on Monday morning. It doesn't. I know what you mean. Right now, we've been in Fayette County for 6 weeks, they had one spike where we went into the highest level is called substantial. We went into substantial for 1 week, and that was really related to the prison. And once we came out of that, now we've dropped into moderate for the last 5 to 6 weeks. The most recently was the week ending 9/18. So this next week will come out on Monday, and like I said, there's two numbers that they look at. The one is the percent positivity. We're well below that in Fayette County. The second number is the incidences per 100,000, and that's the one we're at 21, and we need to get that dropping down.
They say that Fayette County, that gives them a location county, it could be nowhere near.
Yeah, it does a lot. It's absolutely, and in fact, in moderate, the blended learning could be 5 days a week with an option.
Yeah, your question, it's broke down in school district. In other words, they have a list of about school district, right?
County.
County?
Yeah, correct.
Well, a lot of them 4 days, right? That's it, that's correct.
And that's and that accounts for their online learners, just the fourth or the fifth day. Yeah. So the early warning monitor dashboard, it's a board, it's not, no. This is the guidance that the state has provided. Within that guidance, moderate says you're allowed to you have to offer a blended learning model. Your blended learning model can be 5 days a week, present options to be at home in learning.
That's all I'm asking.
Correct.
If the people who want to send their kids to school 5 days a week, the opportunity to do that. People want to keep their kids home, by all means, give them that option.
It's not that easy.
So why don't we on the agenda today, because you guys do have all of the, information and criteria, which relates to like that, and the parents, 100%. Why wasn't it on the agenda, like, so we said it should be really on the agenda, every meeting, why wasn't it on the agenda?
I can say that during the work session, the agenda is worked on and developed, and it was not during the work session on Monday. I mean, that's my best answer. I know it's not a great answer, but that's my best answer. I would absolutely agree with that comment.
Yeah, as Mr. Labe, I think, mentioned a little bit ago, Mr. Bradley and the administration are watching these numbers, and we're seeing them start to go down. And he can contact the board at any time. We can hold a special meeting and have a vote. So that's what I said. I think we're getting close. We'll be going back to something, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, something. Okay, thank you.
We asked the Fayette County Superintendent's had a meeting with the Department of Health, and we asked that exact thing. In the response we received, again, agree with the response. The response we received was because the workers at the prison community, and they go to supermarkets, and they go to speedy meetings, and they go out in the community, and that's the concern of the Department of Health. That's why we were elevated in Fayette County. We went into the higher standard there. We lifted up into that higher standard of substantial. Because of that spike in the prison, after that spike lessened, we've been in moderate for 5 weeks. But I agree with you. I mean, it was due to according to the Department of Health, it was due to the workers going out in the community after they've been exposed.
I still think the risk is so low. Like I said, you can get in the car, they need risk.
Right.
This risk is very low. And if they get it, they're asymptomatic, on trend.
I can just tell you based on data that I would say that 98% of the families that have contacted me want to go 5 days a week, and the staff echoes that, maybe not quite to the same extent because there's some staff members that may be concerned in regards to. Correct. Yep. But yeah, I mean, you're heard, and hopefully we'll be able to effectuate that change. Can happen. Teachers are, professional, and that's what they want the students in front of them. That's where they really shine with the students in front of them.
Nobody's addressing one of the big problems we're going to have. One of the big problems is, and I think Jamie was going to say something. First of all, we can't just bring 5 people back in, 5 days a week back into school and then offer the not stay-at-home learning, because we cannot have these teachers teaching 4 days, 5 days a week, plus teaching the kids that's home 5 days a week. They don't have enough time to do that. So there's a problem there. So we do have our own quota system, which is great. But if those kids don't go into there, then we got a problem. Because if half of them choose to stay at home and half choose to come back, what are we going to do with the kids at home? Is that basically what you was thinking about?
Exactly. It's not that easy. It's not.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things we got to do. We take into consideration. Believe me, I'd love to put them back. Well, we have a folder. They couldn't teach it because they can't teach. They can't be in school teaching the students plus be on Google Classroom teaching. They just can't do it. No, they can enroll in our folder. No, anybody that wants to enroll in our program can enroll it. Well, till the virus is lifted, I think we almost have to do it.
I think just plain fear is some of the rationale for a family may say fear. Yeah. So our teachers post lessons to their Google Classroom. The Google Classroom can include direct instruction, correct? It's not synchronous. It's not necessarily synchronous at the same time. We have teachers that are taking the risk and doing that. Correct. No, and we also have to account for families that choose to, we're going to do education at 6 p.m. because that's when dad and mom get off work. And they have great internet, but they've chosen, because during the day Graham's watching them, and they're going to do their education at 6 p.m. Yeah. So, correct. The teachers post lessons. Direct instruction can take many forms. One of those forms is me videotaping myself, but that's not the only end-all be-all. No. Some are, so it's a choice by the teachers, the individual teachers. Just like on Wednesdays when we're entirely virtual, many teachers make the choice. Yeah. Our teachers are evolving. There's some, we have some really great teachers that are really technologically proficient, and it's also, being willing to take a risk and laugh at yourself and make mistakes, learn through those mistakes. If you post something, a little bit differently and being humble. We can't have a full synchronous model just due to your example exactly, and families that are doing at home. We couldn't do entirely synchronous in our district of 250 square miles with, some of the hardships that like your own hardship that you expressed quite eloquently. I believe you, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the next person, Amy. She's still here. Oh.
My name is Amy Ricchio. I'm here on behalf of the Bible Club. I was told there was going to be a vote tonight on the See You at the Pool event that the students are trying to hold tomorrow evening.
I take responsibility for that, Amy. I shared it with the board, and we didn't put it on the agenda. And then, in light of the information I got about all Spectator information, we were going to apply that towards your event.
So it doesn't need a vote?
What's that?
It won't need a vote then?
That's at the mercy of the board. I don't think if we apply the Spectator Guidelines to that, and you're going from 6:30 a.m. to change to 6:30 p.m. Yeah,
right.
Correct.
Mr. O'Madic, will that need a vote? I've written a COVID plan. Mr. Bradley asked me to write a COVID plan. We looked over that.
I shared that with the board.
Yeah, this has never had a vote before. And,
correct.
I'm not quite sure why it needs a vote this year unless it's related to COVID.
I don't think.
That's the only reason it was related to COVID. Yeah, that's it.
Because
Monday, there were some things discussed that the board, should be, and as right, they should be involved in all decisions.
So, to the board members, does this need a vote tonight? Or, like our Bible Club members and other students in our school who typically participate in See You at the Pool have no idea what's happening tomorrow night at 6:30.
Does any board member have an issue? This is something you guys have been doing for a number of years, correct?
I think it's gone on for 30 years.
That long? Jeez,
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, everyone is invited. The Bible Club has changed this event from typically occurs, today's actually See You at the Pool. They've changed it from Wednesday, since we have no students on Wednesdays, to tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. right out here in front of our school. Everyone's invited to attend. The Bible Club has extended it to our community as well. So please come out and pray with the permission from the school board.
Does any board member have issues with this?
No, I will be there tomorrow night.
Thank you, Mr. Granado. We appreciate that.
Solicitor, do you see a need for?
There was a plan submitted and it's the one that was
Fine.
Very detailed. Thank you, Mr. Yes, very detailed.
I appreciate your help with that.
And we went back and forth a little bit on your flyer, and you were very, cooperative with making adjustments to the flyer and making adjustments to the plan. I mean, I think
Two
that-
tickets.
2 tickets. And
We just want to stand around a flagpole and pray. I mean, I think after this meeting tonight, we can see that our schools, and not only our schools, but, our community and our nation need some prayer, so please come out and join us. Thank you for your support. And I hope to see all of you there.
Oh, Julie, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for letting me take a moment to speak. Before I start my speech, I wanted to thank Mr. Lake and Mr. Harshman for having the discussion about, replacing Ms. Cornelli. I think that's important to all of us to know that a position that is vacated will be replaced. So I appreciate that discussion taking place, and I hope that that always takes place whenever a position is vacated for it to possibly be filled. Also, thank you to Mr. Mongel for attempting to go through the process of opening a position up and looking at the most viable candidate, whether they are inside the district or outside. We absolutely want the best person for any position that is hired here. And of course, fairness and transparency is critical to our district. So on behalf of myself and many of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, my colleagues, not all of them, but many of them, I'm here to speak to you a little bit tonight. I would like to thank the board members who did respond to an email I sent out to you all about us switching classes. And to those other teachers with their concerns, a lot of them responded to me and sent me some concerns, and I said I would speak tonight. So prior to school starting, we were informed that the board had made a decision for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades only, not to switch classes. The only reason we got for us not switching classes was to eliminate traffic in the halls. Which maybe now, since there was a plan in place and changes can be made to that plan, maybe this can be considered. I do see that as a semi-legitimate reason, according to the health and safety plan to be put in place. However, let me inform you of some key points and concerns from my fellow teachers about 3rd, 4th, and 5th only in the entire district not switching classes, other than the primary who has never switched classes. Every other grade has always been allowed to switch. They are still switching. Students are going to band and chorus. Students are leaving our classrooms to go to itinerant classes. They are leaving for special education services to go to another classroom where as many as 3 or sometimes more grade levels have also been in that classroom. So they're going to other places where there have been other groups of students. Students are going to the cafeteria, so the halls are very full during cafeteria time. They're riding buses and vans together. They're permitted to participate in sports and recess. Aides and special education teachers are moving freely in and out of the classroom with many students. Personal aides are split between students and are also traveling with them into other classrooms. Student services are coming in and out of our classroom. Title I services are allowed to continue with primary, changing for intervention classes here soon. Teachers are also traveling to cover classes, staff meetings, PBIS meetings will be starting, things like that. I think that you get the picture with that group of examples, but yet 3rd, 4th, and 5th is a concern for less traffic in the hall. Keep in mind that somebody like a music teacher will see 7 or 8 classes in her room per day that have traveled the hall to get there and back. So will the gym teacher, so will the librarian, the special ed services, speech, occupational therapy. Again, you see my point, and the traffic in the hall is permissible except for those students to see their 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade content teachers. In my hand, actually, I just found this today when I was on the phone this morning with Mr. McCoyle, is a folder that I participated in training and grade level meetings about departmentalization with a list of pros and a very short list of cons about why that is a good thing. And the list includes some things like easier transitions to middle school, content specialization for deeper instruction, students being exposed to multiple teachers, teachers are masters in their content area, financial savings to the district, we always like to hear that, not having to purchase multiple sets of materials, for example, the science kits. If you only have one person teaching science, you only need one set of science kits. All subjects having equal time, also lessens behavior issues because the kids have an opportunity to change classes, easier alignment and specialized training, which is one of the biggest reasons I'm here. The district has spent a ton of time and money creating master teachers in content areas. For me, that was math. For another colleague, reading, maybe another in science. You chose to invest a lot of time, money, training and on us, and even sent some of us away for trainings to become a pro in our content. And now you are okay with someone else delivering my math content who has not had the same training, or me delivering ELA instruction from series I have never held in my hand until this year. Or a science lesson from a series that I have no access to material for. If you're okay with that and you feel comfortable with those scores that are going to come back in the fall, I'll step away right now from this podium. Well, not right now because I have some other things to say. But, again, I don't speak for all, but I'm speaking for many, and these are some of the concerns. Many parents chose, there's a few left here, chose to send their kids back on a hybrid model because they wanted their child to have face-to-face instruction at least a few days. Are you aware that we are delivering instruction to students who I have never met, yet they are the next classroom over receiving math instruction from a content specialist in reading or science? The teacher does not know my expectations or how deep to go, and this is very detrimental to our students. They are not getting their best, deepest level instruction from someone with no interest in that subject, no training, and no confidence in themselves in something they are so unfamiliar with. Not having a content teacher delivering instruction does not seem fair to the teacher, but more importantly, to the students. The work that a teacher spends hours preparing and the success of planning is completely dependent on someone else. Their instruction is contingent on someone else's delivery in that classroom. Some other points are that the teachers don't get to know the students and what they are capable of. There's no adjustment for delivery if a class is not catching on because we don't see that student. Many teachers feel like subs, just taking a few minutes to look at that instruction prior to their day starting. Many of the students are still on computers delivering instruction or having instruction delivered to them, again, from a teacher who is right next door, because we are not allowed to go back and forth. How do we meet the needs of differentiation when we do not have the students in front of us to gauge that level of understanding? For me, it hits home because the look on their face is what drives my instruction. The students need variety and should be changing. Will we be ready for PSSA test? The students are willing, the teachers are willing to switch if the kids cannot. I can't differentiate, and these are a list of things directly from other teachers' emails. I can't differentiate if I don't know the class's ability. A teacher who is responsible for scores should have access to those students. I can't help when a parent calls because I'm not familiar with that student or what they're doing. Makeup work is a mess. I can't adjust if there are technology issues because, again, I have to run next door and find out from the teacher maybe if there is something else I could have them do. There's no adapting or changing pace for a lesson. Too much screen time is definitely a concern. Can't modify or accommodate if we don't know the needs or capabilities. Parents were expecting teachers to be in person, not to be taught by a teacher next door and monitored by another. The students have no idea of who's teaching them. I saw kids in the hall today and they're like, oh, you're Miss Allison Trino. Not even having that opportunity to meet a teacher who's in the same building with them and delivering instruction to them. We empathetically want to teach our own subjects to our classes, and again, because the district has provided us those opportunities to be content-specific teachers, that's where our passion comes from. It's real tough to pace, as one teacher said, and plan for those lessons when it's not you who is used to teaching that. And a lot of these, one teacher said she feels like she's dumb to the parents because they ask questions and she doesn't have the answers for it. Again, this is an overwhelming list of some of the concerns that were presented to me. I know as a math teacher, I want to teach math. I want to dig deep in the math. I need to see that aha moment on their face, or the look of desperation on their face when they're begging me for help because they have no idea what a prime or composite number is. Those eyes are what direct me. That's what drives me. That drives my instruction. They deserve the depth of my passion for my content area that I was forced to teach. But because of the proper training I had, I have grown to love, and they deserve that. They deserve my passion for their best education. And the same holds true for someone you entrusted to be content-specific in ELA or the social sciences as well. After all, you don't want a gym teacher teaching trigonometry. You would never expect a shop teacher from welding to teach a library science class. I know I've spilled a lot on you right now, and again, on behalf of many teachers from the district, not all, but I appreciate your time, and I'm asking for a little consideration for those of us that would like to switch to be able to do so to benefit our students. And if the reason for us not switching is because we want less traffic in the hall, then I respectfully ask that no one in the district switch for anything, because after all, that would eliminate a lot of traffic in the halls. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion that's...
Right?
No, you're going to read it, Mr. Campbell?
Oh, you want to read it? I'll read it. I'm going to make a motion to request approval to modify the district's health and safety plan to authorize students without internet access at home to attend school face-to-face 4 days per week on a voluntary basis, and to confirm all other aspects of the district's health and safety plan and applicable PDE and other mandatory requirements. And I so move.
Second. Motion and second. There's a lot of discussion on this earlier. I don't think there's any more questions. If there are, does anybody have any questions about it? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving to Assistant to Superintendent, Mrs. Grinnell, do you have anything to add? Dr. Coons, anything? Superintendent Bradley.
Yeah, I thank everyone for waiting for our comments. And first, I wanted the board to, there was a second request for an event, well, actually several events, and I wanted to get some input on Mrs. Sangston's comments on the spectators Mr. Yotzi put in for his various bands, jazz band, symphonic band. At the time, his submittal was prior to alleviating any of the indoor traffic patterns. His suggestion at that time was parking lot concerts that was shared, and I wanted to see if there was any input on that, or if he wanted me to ask him to now submit something to have indoors at 2 tickets per participant. I think would be in line with what we're doing consistently. So.
Bradley, could you and Dr. Coons be in contact with Miss Alice Petrino and see if there's anything that can be done about the switching of the classes, either the teachers or classrooms? I know it's been brought up several times.
Just to sidebar that initial thing for Mr. Yotzi, I believe that would, without Dr. Coons and I violating your health and safety plan, we'd want that to be, codified and memorialized in a vote. I mean, we would be happy to work with that, but we would want that memorialized in a vote.
Well, you have to update the health and safety plan.
That's not what we submitted to the state, correct?
Oh, well, there were other changes made tonight to that, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, that could be, take a vote,
Correct.
just saying.
Let's get, we've got two things going here. Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Yotzi's, I mean, I think that, I just wanted to give you guys some input that, I think that to communicate with him, just so his parents that are watching YouTube and his students that are, here watching the meeting, they know that it wasn't just ignored, it was brought to their attention. It was brought to the board's attention, and because of the recent events at 8:01 p.m. last night, if we apply our spectator, we would allow 2 spectators per his concerts as well. That's what we're doing with volleyball, that's an indoor event, and thusly that would be equitable, I believe, and just to communicate that with him. I know the high school administration, including myself, wanted to provide something better than families sitting in a parking lot in their cars listening to their students, do the performances that they practice.
So what's our options? He wanted to do it in
For just to apply our spectator, you're spectating concerts as well. You're a concert goer. If we apply that spectator guidelines to indoor events, like we're applying to our volleyball game, if we apply that consistently to his concerts, I believe that would be consistent and better, in my opinion, as a dad. It'd be better than watching something in the parking lot. They'd be in our great facility here, and we would just ask them to social distance, just like we are volleyball spectators, and 2 per participant in the various bands that he. So,
Does anybody
that's good with that.
have any issues with that? Giving the choice of what they want to do?
Yeah, I think that, it's, his plan was submitted prior to, his parking lot plan was submitted prior to any developments with any other spectator events. Now, I can't speak for Mr. Yotzi, and I would never try to, but I would believe he'd want to submit something that would entail indoor at 2 per participant would be consistent. I just didn't want the people that are watching to think that that wasn't even addressed whatsoever when it was submitted, when you guys had an opportunity to take a look at it. Thank you.
Good.
I appreciate that, Mr. O'Malley. Now, I think the issue at hand was Mr. Harshman's concern about what Ms. Allison Trino brought to your attention as a board.
Yeah, I could put it in the form of a motion that we allow the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders teachers to change classes. Is that acceptable?
I thought that's what they were doing now, man.
Yeah, they stay, your plan called for them to stay in their classes.
Stay in the class.
Weren't you broadcasting?
That's correct, and that's what.
So you were broadcasting their content area, is that?
That's what Julie's comments were in relationship.
We need to teach what we're trained to teach. The kids want it, the teachers want it, we need to be able to teach our kids.
I second
We got a motion, second.
Second.
I just want to clarify for Mr. Madden. What we're doing is 3rd, 4th, and 5th are the 3 grade levels that are not switching in the district. We are staying in our room. I'm still delivering my math instruction. No, I take that back. I'm preparing my math instruction, but a content-specific teacher in ELA is delivering my instruction, or a science teacher is delivering my math instruction. And the issue is, they have not been trained. There's not been updated training for them. And like I said to you, I am teaching ELA, directing ELA instruction from a series I've never held in my hand. When all I have to do is go next door to see that group of math kids, or have those 5 kids come to my class where my posters are, and where my stage is set up, and where my manipulatives are, and have those 5 kids come over. It's happening all over the district, except for 3 grade levels, which makes no sense. And again, if it is a traffic issue, I will respect that. but I don't think it should be happening anyplace else, including going to itinerants or special ed or tech time or library or any place else. Why exclude us when so much time and effort has been put into training us to be that specialized teacher? Just let us move. That's all we're asking.
I thought you were delivering that through a TV.
I am. It's prepared instruction. It is. And
Okay.
but like I'll say for Mrs. Reese, who's still here, bless their heart, because they're my support system, and everybody else who is here who is on track with this. I'm preparing all of that math instruction for her. But again, are those kids getting that in-depth instruction or that ability for me to see on Mike O'Maddock's face, he does not get prime and composite numbers. I need to spend another day on this. She's not there with that kind of level of math teaching. So those kids, their instruction is suffering greatly, even at this point in 2.5 weeks in. It is suffering deeply. We need to be where you as a board and as an administration decided we were going to fit best. And again, I didn't want to teach math. I was a science guru from way back when. But I was forced to teach math, and now my passion is there. And that's where we need to be, for the best instruction for those kids.
Okay. I thought that's the way it was supposed to work. It was televised.
Right.
Okay.
But again, why only us?
Well,
It just doesn't seem like there's, again, if it's less traffic in the hall, then it should be the same everywhere.
you mean all the elementary schools, not just...
It should be everywhere. If the idea is for us not to have less traffic in the halls, why is it only 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade halls?
So first in kindergarten, first and second?
They've always.
They have always been self-contained. Right, but those teachers aren't content-specific teachers. Like, they teach all subjects.
You're talking about like in this high school?
Correct, yes.
Well...
Or middle school.
Or middle
library, or gym, or anything else that they're allowed to switch for.
Well, I could see why it wouldn't happen in the high school. It'd be a little hard to do a chemistry class in a regular classroom.
And it's hard to do a math class when...
Oh, yeah.
It's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Or if you're in Dunbar Township and every kid is switching every day because there's so many special education out
Well,
there.
there's that.
They're moving all the
That's a
time.
whole nother meeting there. Thank you, I appreciate the motion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If the materials are in one room and you're broadcasting from that room, students have access to see those materials. If your request is for the teacher then to leave the room that has the materials in it and go to a room that doesn't have the materials, are you proposing you're going to be bringing all those materials with you?
I think we would rather the kids switch. It's
I
just like
understand,
everybody else
okay.
does.
So you would rather the kids switch rather than the teacher?
If I have
So
to
the
push
motion
my
has...
kids down the hall, I will do it. I will push them down the hall. However, I need to get to those kids and let them see a science experiment take place in front of them, or see fractions take place in front of them. I don't care how it has to happen, but those things need to be in front of those
I
kids.
guess what I'm trying to get clear here before a vote's taken, or a motion's made, which is...
Let us switch like everybody else.
You want to switch?
Let the kids move like everybody else does, like the rest of the district does. Let the kids move classes.
So that's what the motion's going to have.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Point of order, if I could just, point of order before the vote. Just I know that, sometimes, I know quite often our home viewers, and then if we're audited by PDE, and if they were to watch this, I wanted to clarify that, all of our teachers are certificated in the appropriate areas, and, through your PD approved teacher training, that, they are certificated, but it's not the model we adopted in previous years. But, I know that they're not uncertificated in being, responsible for that teaching. But, I just wanted to interject that as a point of order before the vote, or before any other questions were received.
So, Mr. Horstman.
I just got one comment. This was put out by CDC guidelines for reopening schools. And it states here, these guys are scientists and epidemiologists. I'm not. But it does say here Same children staying with the same staff all day, no switching groups or teachers. And that's what I'm going to go by because
That's because you did not have training that we need. I have never been trained in the new ELA series, and I have had all my training the last several years in math. If you want me to continue teaching ELA, science, social studies, then I want training in that. I haven't had access to those materials.
And with the CDC guidelines, need for 6th to 12th grade, because you're doing it for 6th to 12th grade. That's what Julie's saying.
remember, high school, secondary is a little different. You can't do it with younger children like that. You know they're going to be touching everything. They're going to be
And
something
again,
else.
I
That's just the
respectfully
way
ask
it is.
that they don't
I'm a
switch for
guard.
anything, nothing. They don't, nobody switches them, if that's the CDC guide.
We have one in the classroom, we can wipe the desk down. We're willing to do that.
Okay, we have no further questions? We had Mr. Horstman make a motion. That was one?
I'm all right.
Somebody second?
I'm all right.
I did.
Who did? Mr. Panzo, second.
Amendment to I think we get the gist of it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call.
Mr. Margell? Mr. Panzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Sankey? Okay, Mr. Bernardo?
No, if students are moving, and that's what, I was on the board when it was a teacher moving. It was changed to students moving, so I'm letting go.
Mr. Horshman?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Mortray?
No.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Malley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to keep the night rolling, I had one or two more.
Go ahead.
I wanted to bring the attention to the public of, we breezed over the PIC before and after school agreement that the board approved, and I wanted to congratulate the district on this program. It's something that's been in the district as after school tutoring and STEM work only, and now the proposal and what you just approved was to have an hour before school, parents will be able to drop their child off for some homework help, but there's also a PIC STEM component, and then after school we'd have 2 hours of availability of staff that would be hired by PIC, but using our buildings, and that's what we approved. And I wanted to point that out, that families will be receiving more information from their 4 elementaries, and then camp will have the traditional after school availability as well. And I think that's a great opportunity for our district, and something that's unique for our district, to have families able to drop their students off an hour before school because of family schedules or whatever the case may be. And second to last, I wanted to inform the board, Mr. Evans organized senior recognition night for cheerleaders, band, and football players, and I had the opportunity to attend, and it was a very, very well-run event. And those seniors were all recognized, and the accomplishments that were read and the plans that were read for those students and what they plan to do, really knocks your socks off and lets you know what a great job your district is doing, because the students are accomplishing, they're being recognized in that senior recognition night, and then they're able to share what their future plans are. And we had great parent participation at all 3 levels with our band, our cheerleaders, and our football team, and it was a great event, and we look forward to the other senior recognition for our other fall extracurriculars. And lastly, if Ms. Ricchio is doling out prayers tomorrow, I'll take one, and we appreciate it. So thank you, everyone. And our school year has had some bumps, but overall, you see that we come together, and our students come together, our teachers come together, our board, our families,
work things out, and I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud to be a part of this district. Thank you.
And I want to, once again, want to say thank you. Thank you, Dave, for talking to me several times, and thank you all for approving that, giving my son the opportunity that he's not had. And I know this has been unfortunate for all of us, but he's not even had some of the opportunities that the other kids have had. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Good
Hi,
night.
guys. Amy, are those your notes there? Yes. Don't forget them. Thanks, guys. I think we're down for you. You guys want to fight this place as much as possible?